Welcome to the hidden truth of Kanto, how the first region defined everything. We'll keep this deep dive calm and relaxing in case you're falling asleep with us tonight. Let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. If this is your first night, just comment night 1. Now let's get back to the video. Close your eyes for a moment and listen to the sound of the wind rustling through the tall grass just outside the fences of a small quiet town. Imagine a world where the horizon isn't just a line on a map, but a boundary between the known and the impossible. For millions of us, that journey began in the exact same place. A bedroom with a purple carpet, a television set connected to a grey console, and a choice that would define our childhoods. We remember the smell of the salt air in Vermilion City and the haunting, rhythmic chime of the bells in Lavender Town. We remember the weight of a single Pokeball in our hands and the daunting silhouette of the Indigo Plateau looming in the distance. But beneath those pixelated memories lies something much deeper, much older, and far more complex than we ever realized as children. This is the story of Kanto. It is not just the first region, it is the blueprint for a universe. It is a land built on the bones of ancient warring clans, shaped by the clinical coldness of modern laboratory science, and anchored by a geography that mirrors our own world in ways that are both intentional and profound. For over 25 years we have walked these paths, but how much of the soil beneath our feet do we actually understand? Why does Kanto still hold such a powerful grip on our collective imagination? Why, after 9 generations and hundreds of new creatures, do we find ourselves constantly drawn back to the red brick rooftops of Pallet Town? The stakes of understanding Kanto are the stakes of understanding the soul of Pokémon itself. If Kanto had failed, the global phenomenon we know today would simply not exist. It was a gamble taken by a small team in Tokyo, working out of a cramped office, trying to capture the feeling of catching insects in the tall grass of a disappearing rural Japan. They weren't just making a game, they were building a mythology from scratch. When we look at Kanto, we are looking at the foundational architecture of a dream. Every mechanic we take for granted, every trope of the hero's journey, and every ethical question about the relationship between humans and nature was first interrogated right here. To understand Kanto is to understand the DNA of a franchise that has reshaped modern culture. It is the origin point of our shared digital heritage, a place where nostalgia and deep lore intersect to create something timeless. Yet for all its familiarity, Kanto is shrouded in shadows and unanswered questions. The bright colours of the cities named after the spectrum of light itself, but we often miss the darkness lurking in the corners. What really happened in the burnt-out ruins of the Pokémon mansion on Cineabar Island? Was the creation of Mewtwo a triumph of human ingenuity or a catastrophic sin against the natural order? And what of the legends that predate the Pokédex? Long before Professor Oak handed out his first Bulbasaur, there are whispers of a hero named Kan, a man who supposedly united 8 warring clans and tamed the elemental birds of legend to bring peace to a fractured land. Is the gym leader system we know today merely a sanitized modern version of an ancient feudal war? We speak of Team Rocket as a mere criminal organization, but their influence reached into the very heart of Kanto's industry and government. From the heights of Silph Co to the depths of the Rocket hideout, a secret war was being waged for the future of evolution itself. How did a single region become the epicenter for both the ultimate biological weapon and the ultimate tool for harmony? Tonight we are going to peel back the layers of time and pixels. We are moving beyond the surface-level nostalgia of the '96 era to explore the hidden truths of the first region. We will trace the real-world inspirations from the Kanto plain of Japan, mapping the transition from the early concepts of capsule monsters to the global juggernaut of Pokémon Red and Blue. We will dive deep into the prehistoric myths of the Rainbow Cascade and Volcano clans, and examine the scientific breakthroughs that gave life to Porygon and the tragic Mewtwo. We will follow the footsteps of Red and Blue, not just as players, but as witnesses to a turning point in history. This is a journey through the urban sprawl of Saffron, the treacherous waters of the Seafoam Islands, and the silent snowy peaks of Mount Silver. Whether you are a veteran who can navigate the rock tunnel in the dark, or a newcomer curious about where it all began, there is a seat for you at this campfire. Prepare yourself for a long-form exploration of a world that defined everything. This is the complete, relaxing lore of Kanto. Let us begin where it all started, in a quiet house in Lavender Town, as the sun begins to rise over the tall grass of Route 1. In the quiet suburbs of Machida, just outside Tokyo, a young boy named Satoshi Tajiri roamed the edges of vanishing forests, his hands sticky with the thrill of discovery. He'd pin beetles to corkboards, trade them with friends like rare treasures, and dream of worlds where these creatures weren't vanishing under concrete sprawl. That boy, chasing stag beetles through underbrush thick with summer humidity, didn't know he was sketching the blueprint for a universe that would captivate billions. Those forests were shrinking fast in the 1970s and 80s, swallowed by Japan's post-war boom, the Kanto Plain transforming from wild expanse to urban grid. Tajiri felt it acutely, his playground eroding, bugs fleeing to the hills. Bug collecting became his escape, a ritual of patience and wonder, netting cicadas that buzzed like living jewels, unearthing rhinoceros beetles armoured like ancient warriors. He pored over field guides, sketched their forms in notebooks, and shared stories in fanzines he published himself. This wasn't just a hobby, it was a rebellion against loss, a way to capture and preserve what the bulldozers couldn't touch. Years later, as an adult holed up in a Tokyo apartment with Game Freak, his scrappy magazine turned game studio, Tajiri channeled that nostalgia into something revolutionary. Pokémon was born from those hunts, a game where you'd throw capsules to snag wild creatures, train them, battle with them, just like trading bugs on sun-dappled paths. But the seed was planted earlier, in a prototype called Capsule Monsters, rough and raw, scribbled on graph paper during late-night sessions. It featured a simple loop of towns connected by paths, no grand overworld yet, just dots of humanity amid monster-haunted wilds. That prototype simmered for years, Tajiri iterating obsessively as Game Freak scraped by on lesser titles. Capsule Monsters lacked a map worthy of its ambition. It was a cluster of villages, basic and blocky, evoking his suburban rambles but confined. Then came the pivot. Pokémon Red and Green, released in Japan in 1996, demanded more. Tajiri envisioned a region that mirrored his Kanto home, the real-life Kanto, heartbeat of modern Japan, from Tokyo's neon pulse to coastal bays and misty mountains. He traced it onto paper, distilling the sprawling plain into a definitive map. Lavender Town at the south. A humble start, routes snaking north to Viridian Forest's shaded trails. Cities blooming like waypoints in his childhood atlas. Game Boy's iron grip shaped every pixel. That handheld wonder, launched by Nintendo in 1989, was a technical tyrant. Monochrome screen flickering at 60 Hz, 4 shades of green-grey, memory starving at 8 kilobytes for the cart. No room for lush forests or bustling metropolises. Tajiri's team had to minimalist masterpiece it. The routes became stark lines, grass patches mere rustles of static, towns reduced to essential silhouettes. A lab here, a gym there, caves as black moors. Viridian City emerged as a sparse grid, Pewter's Museum a single-door beacon, Cerulean a bridge-spanning blue haze, all evoking colour through names alone, since the screen couldn't render them. This constraint birthed genius. Kanto's map feels intimate, traversable on foot in hours of play, every twist familiar, like Tajiri's old bug routes. No vast seas or endless plains. Instead, a loop closing at Indigo Plateau, gyms as milestones, mirroring the 8 clans of ancient myth he'd weave in later. The Game Boy forced economy, Pokémon popping from grass with a chime, wild encounters randomized to hide the limits, but it amplified tension, made every step a hunt. Tajiri's forests shrank to root one's lonely path, yet teemed with Pidgey flutters and Rattata scampers, echoing his nets through Machida's remnants. Game Freak, tucked in Tokyo's Kanto core, poured local love into it. Saffron's towering Silph Company nodded to tech giants like Sony nearby, Cineabar's volcano to Fuji's distant smoke. The map wasn't just geography, it was Tajiri's memoir. Capsule monsters, crude towns, evolving into a self-contained world that hooked players worldwide. Kids in Seattle traded as he once did in Japan. Forests virtual now, lost transmuted to legacy. From one boy's beetle pins to a phenomenon grossing billions, Kanto's blueprint proved constraints spark eternity. That minimalist canvas, though, hid layers of hue waiting to unfold. Names whispering shades of emerald, slate, azure, and violet, and it painting a land alive with secrets. Stick around for Chapter 2, a land painted in colour, where those whispers bloom into the vibrant heart of Kanto's soul. From the simple paths Satoshi Tajiri traced through Tokyo's suburban forests, chasing beetles and dreaming up worlds in his mind, emerged not just a map, but a canvas. A land where every town and city whispers a shade, stretching across the spectrum like a deliberate brushstroke. Kanto isn't random geography. It's a palette, each settlement named for a hue that bleeds into the next, guiding you from stark beginnings to fiery horizons. Palette Town, your starting point, gleams in purest white. No bold crimson or deep indigo here, just the untainted blankness of fresh snow or untouched paper. Developers at Game Freak chose this deliberately, evoking the psychological pull of Inception. And white symbolises purity, the void before creation, a mental reset that draws you in like a deep breath before the plunge. You step out of your mother's house in palette, Pokeballs empty, world vast and undefined. That white isn't accidental. It mirrors how our brains process novelty. Studies in colour psychology show white calms the mind, lowers heart rates, primes us for discovery without overwhelm. It's why hospitals use it, why artists begin with gessoed canvases. In Kanto, Palette Town's white sets the stage, making every step forward feel like colouring your own destiny, pixel by pixel on that original Game Boy screen. Head north, just a short path away, and Viridian City rises in vivid green. Viridian, from the Latin viridis, meaning green, evokes lush forests and new growth. This is the first major hub, with its towering gym and Pokémon Center pulsing like spring's first leaves. Green here isn't just scenery, it's renewal, the colour of go signals in traffic lights worldwide, triggering subconscious urges to advance. Game Freak layered this atop real-world inspiration. Viridian mirrors Machida or other Kanto outskirts, where urban sprawl meets wooded hills, much like the actual Kanto Plains transition from Tokyo's edge into greener Machida or Hachioji areas. Press on, and the spectrum bends towards stone-grey Pewter City. Pewter, that metallic sheen of unpolished tin, stands for endurance and earthiness. Brock's gym looms here, rocky and unyielding, challenging your fledgling team with Onyx's coils and Geodude's grit. Grey psychologically grounds us, a neutral anchor amid chaos, reminiscent of ancient boulders weathering time. In Japan's Kanto, Pewter echoes Takayama or Yokohama's industrial fringes, where grey concrete and quarried stone define the landscape, blending rural resilience with encroaching modernity. Cross the Nugget Bridge, and Cerulean City's blue washes over you. Cerulean from Caruleus, deep sky blue, captures the cascade of Misty's gym, water Pokémon swirling in azure pools. Blue soothes, evoking trust and infinity. Why corporations paint logos in it. Why oceans draw us to stare endlessly. Starting from Palette's white, this progression hits your psyche like a cooling wave, building emotional rhythm. real Kanto shines through. Cerulean aligns with Yokohama's bay harbours, where Tokyo Bay's blue mirrors. Here's the port's shipyards and coastal inlets, a nod to the region's maritime heart. Vermilion City ignites next in warm orange-red. Vermilion, that alchemist's red, pulses with Lieutenant Surge's electric fury, fishing ports alive with wing-gull cries. Red-orange revs the pulse, signals danger and energy, pushing you faster through routes. It's the spectrum's heat building, psychologically priming battles ahead. Kanto's real counterpart, Yokohama's bustling docks and Kawasaki's fiery factories, where orange sunsets over industrial bays mirror Vermilion's vibrant docks. Deeper in, Lavender Town drapes purple melancholy. Lavender, soft violet like twilight blooms, harbours ghosts in its tower, a spectral shift that chills. Purple blends calm blue with fiery red, evoking mystery and royalty, but here it's loss. Mr. Fuji's grief echoing through pokey flute tunes. From white purity to purple shadow, your journey darkens, mirroring grief's stages. See Japan's Kanto ties it to Chiba's misty hills or Tokyo's quieter cemeteries, where purple wisteria veils ancient graves. Celadon City glows apple green, a verdant oasis with Erica's fragrant gym. Department stores humming. Celadon, pale green like unripe fruit, suggests abundance, growth unchecked. Psychologically, it refreshes after lavender's gloom, green's healing touch restoring balance. Modelled on Tokyo's shopping districts, like Shibuya, but greener, evoking upscale Aoyama's parks amid commerce. Fuchsia City blushes pink magenta, Koga's ninja haven with Safari Zone beasts roaming. Fuchsia, vibrant fuchsia flower hue, sparks playfulness mixed with peril. Pink softens aggression, yet magenta hints venom, perfect for poison types. From palettes white, this late spectrum pink feels earned exuberance. Kanto's Izu Peninsula vibes here with its pink cherry blossoms and wild preserves akin to the safari's untamed feel. Saffron City beams golden yellow, psychic hub where Sabrina warps minds. Saffron, spice gold yellow, radiates enlightenment, warning of overload. Too much yellow strains eyes, sparks anxiety. It peaks the spectrum's arc. Silph Company's towers gleaming like Tokyo skyscrapers, directly aping the capital's psychic pulse of tech and crowds. Finally, Cineabar Island burns scarlet red. Blaine's volcano forge, Cineabar, mercury red ore, embodies culmination. Fire, transformation, endgame heat. Red demands action, climaxes journeys. Psychologically, arriving here from white feels like spectrum's blaze, every emotion amplified. Kanto's coastal volcanoes, like those near Tokyo Bay, echo this, with hot springs and rugged isles. This colour-coded tapestry isn't whimsy. A game freak rooted in Tokyo's Kanto mapped it onto Japan's eastern plain precisely. Palette near the capital's south, like Machida. Viridian's forests matching Hachioji. Pewter's rocks like Takao. Cerulean's bays Yokohama. Vermilion's ports Kawasaki. Lavender's hills Chiba. Celadon's malls Shibuya. Fuchsia's wild Zizu fringes. Saffron dead center Tokyo. Cineabar's heat Oshima Island. Routes twist like bullet trains and highways. Routes 1 through 23 snaking real topography. Mount Moon's caverns as actual casts. Rock tunnels black mirroring deep shafts. The genius lies in progression's pull. White palette erases prior worlds. Green viridian urges motion. Grey pewter steels resolve. Blue cerulean flows onward. Orange vermilion energizes. Purple lavender haunts. Green celadon heals. Pink fuchsia delights. Yellow saffron illuminates. Red Cineabar consumes. It's emotional cartography. Hues hacking your brain's reward loops, turning pixels into pilgrimage. Tajiri's bug hunts in these very landscapes, infused it. Colours he chased in nets now chase you across the screen. Yet beneath this painted land simmers ancient strife. Clans clashing in rainbow fury, until one hero rose to unite them. In the next chapter, The Legend of Hero Kan, we'll unearth how those warring colours birthed Kanto's enduring order, a myth that still echoes in every badge you claim. From the pure white canvas of Palette Town, where every journey begins in unspoiled simplicity, Kanto's true origins stretch back into shadows, far deeper than any colour on the spectrum. Long before the first Pokédex scanned a single creature, this land pulsed with raw, untamed fury, a chaotic cradle where 8 mighty clans clashed in endless strife, their rivalries carving scars into the earth that still whisper through the region's veins. These weren't mere tribes of wanderers, they were primal forces, each bound to a starter Pokémon that embodied their essence, wielding power that bent forests and rivers to their will. The Rainbow Clan roamed the verdant valleys near what would become Viridian, their Venusaur shamans channeling the Earth's boundless growth, vines twisting like living weapons to ensnare foes. Across mist-shrouded peaks, the Cascade Clan held dominion by Cerulean's crashing falls, Blastoise warriors unleashing torrents that could drown armies, their shells gleaming like ancient fortresses under the moon. In the fiery craters of Cineabar's precursors, the Volcano Clan forged empires from molten rock, Charizard lords soaring on wings of flame, scorching the skies with breaths that turned battlefields to ash. But they were only 3 among 8. The Iron Clan hammered unyielding might from Pewter's grey quarries, their Geodude evolving into unbreakable graveler golems that crushed opposition under seismic fury. Lavender's spectral warriors, shrouded in perpetual twilight, commanded ghastly swarms from hidden mausoleums, phasing through defences with ghostly precision to haunt the living. Saffron's psychic sentinels, eyes glowing with psionic fire, manipulated minds from towering spires, bending wills like reeds in the wind. Vermilion's electric nomads harnessed thunder from coastal storms, Pikachu packs crackling with lightning that split the night. And in the shadowed groves of fuchsia, or poison masters brewed venoms from the earth itself, their Venonat hordes spreading miasmas that withered even the hardiest foes. For generations, these clans warred without mercy, their battles reshaping the land. Rivers ran red with the blood of fallen shamans, mountains crumbled under the weight of rampaging herds, and fertile plains turned to barren wastes where nothing grew. Villages, primitive clusters of thatched huts and sacred stone circles, huddled in fear, their people offering tribute to whichever clan dominated their patch of earth that season. Children learned not songs of unity, but chants of vengeance, passed down around flickering campfires as elders recounted grudges etched into clan totems. The air hung heavy with the stench of smoke and decay, the ground trembling from distant roars, a symphony of savagery that knew no dawn. Desperation bred hubris. In a bid to end the stalemate, the clan leaders gathered under a blood moon at the heart of Indigo Plateau, performing a forbidden ritual drawn from ancient scrolls unearthed in forgotten caves. They sought guardians of unimaginable power, beings to tip the scales forever. What answered was no salvation, but apocalypse. From the frozen north plummeted Articuno, its wings a blizzard incarnate, freezing rivers solid and entombing entire cascade outposts in eternal ice, the screams of the drowned echoing as cracking glaciers. Zapdos descended from storm-racked skies over Vermilion's shores, bolts forking from its body like vengeful serpents, electrocuting Iron Clan forges into slag and scattering electric nomads into the churning sea, their Pikachu allies fried mid-leap. Moltres erupted from volcanic fissures near Cinnabar, a phoenix of inferno that ignited Volcano Clan rivals in pillars of flame, turning lush rainbow groves to cinders where Venusaur twisted in agony, their pods bursting like overripe fruit. The legendary birds didn't choose sides. They ravaged indiscriminately. Primitive tribes, caught between clan armies and divine wrath, fled into caves and thickets, their wooden idols splintered, hearths cold. Articuno's chill gripped the land in unnatural winter, snowdrifts burying Lavender's ghosts in white shrouds. Zapdos's tempests flooded Saffron's psychic domes, minds shattering under psychic backlash amplified by thunder. Moltres' heat waves cracked the earth, poison swamps of fuchsia boiling away into toxic steam that choked the skies for weeks. The clans, humbled at last, watched their summonings turn against them. Warriors reduced to shadows, huddling in ruins, whispering prayers to forgotten spirits. Into this maelstrom stepped Kan, a lone wanderer from the unmarked wilds beyond Palette's future fields, his eyes sharp as a scyther's blade, his presence calm amid the storm. No clan claimed him. He bore no totem, and only a quiet resolve forged in solitude. Legends say he tamed his first companion, a humble Rattata that grew into a fearless Raticate, through sheer will rather than ritual. Kan moved like mist through the chaos, challenging not armies, but the hearts of the leaders themselves. He began with the Rainbow Clan, scaling vine-choked cliffs to face their Venusaur, High Shaman, in a glade where sunlight fractured into prisms. There, amid pollen-thick air, sweet with nectar and peril, Kan's strategy unravelled their growth-based assaults, dodging solar beams that scorched the canopy, countering with precise strikes that exploited overgrown roots. Victorious, he didn't slay the master, but offered alliance, speaking of a land where colours harmonised rather than clashed. Next, the Cascade Clan, as in Cerulean's roaring cascades where water roared like thunder. Blastoise's hydrocannons blasted geysers that could pulverise stone, but Kan anticipated the floods, using the terrain's own echoes to turn waves against their wielders. Soaked to the bone, mist veiling his form, he convinced them, Unity's flow stronger than any torrent. The Volcano Clan tested him hardest, atop smouldering peaks where lava rivers glowed like veins of fire. Charizard's flames licked the heavens, wings buffeting hurricane winds, but Kan endured the heat haze, striking when embers dimmed, proving fire's warmth could forge rather than destroy. With these three united, the rainbow's vitality, Cascade's resilience, Volcano's passion, Kan rallied them against the others. Iron yielded to unyielding purpose, Lavender's spectres found light piercing their gloom. Saffron's minds bent toward collective vision. Vermilion's sparks ignited shared dreams. Fuchsia's toxins purified into medicine. The 8 clans, once fractious, stood as one under Kan's banner. Together, they confronted the birds. Articuno fell first in Seafoam's icy depths. Kan's coalition braving glacial labyrinths, ropes of woven vines and chains of iron holding fast as they wore down the Frost Sovereign. Zapdos met fury in the power plant's skeletal ruins, electric nets from Vermilion trappers, channeling its rage into harnessed energy. Moltres raged atop Victory Road's precursors, but flames met a wall of water, ice and stone until it fled, scorched and spent. Banished, the trio sought refuge in the towering silhouette of Mount Silver, their cries still rumoured to echo on stormy nights. Kan, with clans forged anew, established the First League at Indigo Plateau, a circuit of 8 trials mirroring the clan's strengths, badges as bonds of fealty. He named the land Kanto, Kan's land, a realm where primitive tribes could thrive in peace, laying the stones for gyms that echo to this day. That mountain, Mount Silver, looms larger still in the shadows of later legends, hiding secrets that even Kan couldn't fully tame. Next time, in Chapter 4, The Shadow of Mount Silver, we'll ascend its treacherous peaks and uncover what truly lurks in the fog-shrouded heights that claimed the birds and tested champions beyond imagination. But from those smouldering ruins, where the legendary birds had torn the earth asunder, a colossal sentinel emerged, casting its eternal shadow over the fractured land. Mount Silver, that impenetrable spine of stone and ice, it didn't just mark the edge of Kanto, it forged it. This mountain range, vast and unyielding, stretches like a jagged scar across the horizon, its peaks piercing the clouds where no ordinary traveller dares tread. Formed eons ago from the fiery convulsions of ancient volcanoes and the relentless grind of continental plates, its slopes are laced with veins of shimmering silver ore that give it its name, or so pure it defies the deepest mines of the lowlands. You can almost feel the weight of it, that geological behemoth rising thousands of feet, its roots delving into the planet's core while its summits scrape the stratosphere. What makes Mount Silver more than mere rock is how it cleaves Kanto from the unknown world beyond. To the west lies the wild expanse of Johto, with its misty valleys and ancient towers. But Silver stands as the great divider, a natural fortress that has shielded Kanto's heart from eastern tempests and invading forces for millennia. Its massive bulk disrupts the trade winds, channeling fierce blizzards down into the Indigo Plateau, while trapping warmer currents in the southern bays, creating Kanto's unique tapestry of climates, from the verdant forests of Viridian to the arid plateaus near Cineabar. Geologists whisper that without this barrier, Kanto's rivers would flood unchecked, its forests would wither under relentless gales, and the very soil that nurtures its Pokémon would erode into nothingness. It's no coincidence that the mountain's shadow falls longest over Pallet Town, as if cradling the region's birthplace in quiet protection. Yet the true enigma of Mount Silver lies not in its stone, but in the primal forces can banish there. Those legendary birds, Articuno of the frozen gales, Zapdos crackling with untamed lightning, Moltres wreathed in volcanic fury, weren't mere beasts of destruction. They embodied the raw chaos of nature itself, summoned unwittingly by the warring clan's bloodlust, their powers amplifying the tribal strife until the land bled. Hero Kan, in his desperate unity, didn't slay them. He understood their necessity. Each bird represented an elemental cornerstone. Articuno, to temper the heat of endless summers, Zapdos to ignite the storms that replenished parched earth, Moltres to awaken dormant volcanoes that fertilized the soil with ash. But unleashed in the lowlands, their might shattered balance, ice storms burying villages, thunderbolts scorching fields, flames devouring groves. Kan drove them skyward, here to the austere peaks of Mount Silver, where the thin air and eternal isolation contained their fury. Articuno claimed the highest glacier, its wings weaving blizzards that cooled the region without descending too far. Zapdos nested amid thunder-racked spires, its electric surges dancing harmlessly in the heights, feeding Kanto's power grids through subtle conduits like the distant power plant. Moltres burrowed into hidden craters, its fire breath warming underground springs that bubble up as healing geysers in Johto's borderlands. Up there, their presence is harmonized, a triad of equilibrium, ensuring Kanto's ecosystems thrived. Forests regenerated, oceans stayed temperate, skies cleared for migration. The mountain became their prison and throne, its shadow a constant reminder that power, unbound, devours, but power restrained sustains. Travelers speak of eerie lights flickering on the summits at night, the birds' calls echoing like distant thunder, a symphony that lulls the land into peace. With the birds secured and the clans humbled, Kanto teetered on the brink of rebirth. No longer did rival shamans hurl Pokémon into endless skirmishes amid the rubble. Kan envisioned order from anarchy. He gathered the 8 defeated masters, those fierce leaders of the Rainbow, Cascade, Thunder, and other clans, and forged them into guardians. Each was assigned a domain mirroring their elemental affinity, transforming chaotic battlegrounds into sacred arenas. The Venusaur clan's verdant meadows became the Viridian Gym, where growth and resilience are tested. The Blastoise lineage claimed Cerulean's cascading waters, channeling watery might into disciplined trials. And even the Charizard overlords, once arsonists of the plains, were bound to Cinnabar's forge-like halls, their fire honed for worthy challengers. This was the genesis of the gym leader system, you know so well. A structured ladder ascending toward mastery, each badge a seal of harmony over the old wars. Khan decreed that only through these trials could one prove worthy of the League, ascending the Indigo Plateau beneath Silver's watchful gaze. Tribal shamans evolved into leaders like Brock of Pewter, unyielding as the mountains themselves, or Misty of Cerulean, fluid yet fierce. Giovanni, descendant of the Shadowy Earth clan, would one day helm Viridian, his ambitions echoing ancient creeds. The system spread, embedding itself in Kanto's soul, 8 steps from novice to elite, badges glinting like stars under the mountain's silhouette. And it turned warriors into mentors, rivals into allies, ensuring the bird's balance echoed in every battle. Centuries later, that shadow endures, a silent overseer, as challengers like Red scale its forbidden paths, confronting not just wild perils, but the ghosts of Khan's era. The peaks whisper secrets of isolation's toll, the silent trainer who waits there, embodying ultimate solitude. And as Kanto's lore deepens, threads lead back to its quiet architects, like the professor, whose palette lab hides more than starters and Pokédexes. What untold role did Professor Oak play in bridging that ancient shadow to our modern quests? Stick around for Professor Oak's secret history. You won't believe how his shadow stretches all the way to Silver's summit. As the dust settled on Mount Silver's treacherous slopes, with the legendary bird's fury echoing only in fading legends, Kanto's fertile valleys stirred with a new kind of ambition. Ambitious minds turned from survival to mastery, and none embodied that shift more profoundly than a young trainer named Samuel Oak. Picture Samuel in his prime, barely out of his teens, striding through the sun-baked roots of eastern Kanto with a Pidgeot at his side and a fire in his eyes that rivaled any Charizard. He wasn't born into privilege. Pallet Town's quiet fields raised him, where the air smelled of fresh grass and distant sea salt, far from the clamour of Saffron's towers. But Samuel craved the roar of crowds. He chased glory across the region, battling in makeshift arenas, from Vermilion's docks to Celadon's glittering pavilion. His team was a force of raw power, a Venusaur that uprooted oaks with a single solar beam, a blistering Arcanine whose flames lit up night tournaments, and a cunning Alakazam that outthought opponents before they could blink. Victories piled up like badges on his vest. Samuel dominated the early circuits, toppling gym leaders who would later become household names. Brock's unyielding Onyx crumbled under his water specialists. Misty's Starmie fizzled against electric counters he perfected through sleepless strategy sessions. He clashed with rivals who pushed him to the brink, forging bonds with Pokémon that felt unbreakable. Whispers spread of his undefeated streak through Pewter and Cerulean, where he'd linger after dusk, sketching battle notes by lantern light, his hands stained with Pokeball polish. The Kanto's competitive scene was wild then, less structured than today's league, more a brutal proving ground where losers faded into obscurity. Yet glory has a way of hollowing out the soul. Samuel hit his peak at the Indigo Plateau qualifiers, facing a shadowed trainer whose tactics exposed every flaw in his arsenal. The loss wasn't just a defeat, it shattered something deeper. He watched his exhausted Pokémon limp from the field, their eyes dimmed, not by weakness, but by the endless grind. That night, under a canopy of stars above Route 8, Samuel made a vow. Battles had limits, science didn't. He traded his champion dreams for a lab coat, enrolling in Cerulean University's Pokémon biology program, where dusty tomes on genetics and ecology replaced the thrill of spotlights. His transition wasn't seamless. His classmates mocked the former hotshot scribbling equations instead of attack patterns, but Samuel dove in with the same ferocity. He dissected evolutionary chains late into the night, arguing in seminars that true strength lay in understanding a Pokémon's essence, not just exploiting it. Professors noticed his edge, the practical wisdom of a trainer who knew the wild heart of a beast. By his mid-20s, he'd published papers on habitat restoration, proposing ways to heal roots scarred by overzealous battles. Kanto's academia embraced him, but Samuel hungered for more than theory. Enter Professor Maple, the reclusive genius holed up in Cerulean City's labyrinthine labs. An elder with wild white hair and eyes sharp as a scyther's blade, Maple had spent decades tinkering with the impossible. Bill, his grandson, idolized him, and but few knew Maple's crowning obsession, bridging the gap between human and Pokémon worlds through technology. Samuel started as a lowly aide, sweeping floors and calibrating scopes, but his insights caught Maple's ear. "You felt their spirits in battle, Maple." Maple grumbled one stormy evening, as thunder rattled the lab's glass domes. "Help me give them freedom beyond our grasp." Their collaboration birthed the PC storage system, a revolution shrouded in secrecy. It began with prototypes, clunky boxes humming with ethereal energy, prototypes linked to vast digital ethernets powered by Porygon algorithms fresh from Cineabar's forges. Samuel and Maple labored through failures, boxes that warped time, Pokémon emerging disoriented from hyperspace limbo. Nights blurred into days in that cerulean bunker, and surrounded by glowing screens and the faint ozone scent of overclocked circuits. Samuel contributed battle-tested behavioral data, ensuring transfers preserved bonds intact. No more weakened teams post-storage. Maple's genius handled the quantum leaps, weaving Mew-inspired DNA matrices to stabilize the ether. The breakthrough came during a blackout, when lightning struck the lab's antenna. As power surged back, the first stable link formed. A Rattata zipped into digital void, from Palette reappearing flawless in Cerulean. Cheers echoed through the halls. They refined it relentlessly. Anti-corruption firewalls, multi-region relays, even emotional resonance tech, so trainers felt their distant partners' vibes. Dubbed the Pokémon storage system, it transformed everything. No longer chained to 6-ball limits, her explorers could curate armies from afar. Silph Co later scaled it, but the core was oaken maples, untold until now, buried in yellowed patents stamped from those hidden sessions. With the PC humming across Kanto, Samuel set his sights higher. Why Lavender Town? Not coincidence. That unassuming village, cradled by rolling hills and lapped by the sea's gentle whisper, pulsed with purity. Its white sands and open skies symbolized a blank canvas for discovery, free from urban smog or rocket shadows. Central yet secluded, Palette's roots spiderwebbed to every gym, every wild haven, ideal for data collection. Samuel saw it as ground zero, a place where starters could bond without interference, where young trainers like his grandson Blue could launch journeys untainted by cynicism. He built his lab there on family land, had a sprawling greenhouse fused with tech vaults, vines creeping over server banks. Palette became the nerve center for his grandest vision, the Pokédex Project. Handheld encyclopedias to catalogue every species, powered by PC linkages for real-time updates. Governments funded it quietly, seeing unity in knowledge. Samuel handpicked aides, calibrated scanners to capture cries and stats mid-battle. When the first prototype beeped to life, scanning a humble Rattata on Route 1, he knew Kanto's truth would unfold, not through myths or mountains, but entries etching the world's hidden wonders. Palette's choice sealed Oak's legacy. From competitive blaze to academic anchor, he'd woven Kanto's chaos into order, his PC triumph the invisible thread binding trainers everywhere. But whispers from Guyana's jungles reached him soon after. Tales of a phantom Pokémon slipping through canopies like mist. Oak's curiosity ignited again, pulling him toward an expedition that would rewrite Origins forever. Up next, Chapter 6, The Mew Expedition. What elusive creature drove the professor to risk everything, uncovering DNA secrets that birthed monsters in the night, while Samuel Oak was revolutionizing how trainers could store and share their Pokémon partners through that groundbreaking PC system. with Professor Maple. Another quiet genius was pushing the boundaries of discovery in ways that would forever alter Kanto's scientific legacy. Mr. Fuji, a reclusive researcher with a heart full of wonder, set his sights not on circuits or screens, but on the whispering secrets of the natural world. His passion wasn't born from competition or academia's rigid halls. It stemmed from a profound reverence for life itself, a belief that every creature held a piece of the divine puzzle. Fuji had always been drawn to the elusive, the Pokémon that danced on the edge of myth and reality. Whispers from old explorers' journals spoke of a spectral being, a Pokémon so elusive it earned the name Mirage Pokémon, vanishing like mist at the first hint of pursuit. These tales weren't idle campfire stories. They traced back to the densest, most unforgiving corners of the earth, far from Kanto's temperate shores. Guyana's deep jungles, a labyrinth of towering kapok trees, draped in vines thicker than a man's arm, steaming under relentless equatorial sun, became the epicenter of his quest. This wasn't some sanitized lab expedition with teams of aides and high-tech gear. Fuji ventured there alone at first, driven by an almost spiritual calling, hacking through undergrowth, alive with the chatter of howler monkeys and the iridescent flash of morpho butterflies. Picture the air there, heavy, saturated, carrying the earthy rot of fallen leaves and the sharp tang of orchids blooming in hidden crevices. Fuji moved like a shadow, his notebooks filling with sketches of bizarre flora and fleeting glimpses of rare species. Poison dart frogs glistening on broad leaves, capybaras wading through blackwater rivers. But it was the anomalies that gripped him, the unnatural silence that fell over the canopy at dusk, broken only by a soft, ethereal giggle echoing from nowhere. Locals called it the jungle's ghost. That's a trick of light and fever dreams. But Fuji sensed truth in the mirage. He pressed deeper, past waterfalls cascading into mist-shrouded pools, where the very air seemed to shimmer with latent energy. After weeks of near starvation and skirmishes with territorial, electric types lurking in the ferns, he found it. Perched on a moss-covered ruin, half swallowed by the jungle, perhaps an ancient temple, predating even Guyana's indigenous peoples, the Mirage Pokémon hovered. Mew, though he wouldn't name it that yet, was a diminutive marvel, no larger than a child's hand, its body a soft pink hue that shifted like sunset on water. Its tail curled playfully, eyes wide with ancient intelligence, and as it floated, it phased through solid branches, as if reality bent to its whim. Fuji froze, heart pounding, as Mew tilted its head, studying him with curiosity rather than fear. In that moment, he didn't reach for a Pokeball. No, this was no prize for a collection. He simply observed, sketching furiously, noting how Mew seemed to mimic the calls of nearby Pokemon, transforming mid-air into fleeting echoes of Pidgey or Rattata before reverting to its true form. What captivated Fuji most wasn't its evasiveness, but its essence. He collected a single tail hair, shed naturally during its playful darts through the canopy, and that fragile strand unlocked a revelation that shook the foundations of Pokémon biology. Back in his makeshift camp, under the glow of a kerosene lantern, he examined it through a portable microscope. The DNA helix within wasn't a single thread, it was a tapestry. Mew's genetic code contained fragments of every known Pokémon species, traces of Bulbasaur's vine-like resilience, Charizard's fiery metabolism, even the psychic pulses of Abra. It wasn't evolution's endpoint, it was the origin. Scientists later confirmed it. Mew carried the blueprint of life itself, a living archive compressing the DNA of all Pokémon into one impossibly versatile form. Why? Because Mew predated Divergence, a primordial wanderer that had traversed continents, intermingling genes through some innate, telekinetic replication. It explained the diversity exploding across regions, from Kanto's grounded normals to Johto's ethereal spirits. Mew wasn't just rare, it was the mother code, the reason every Pokédex entry hinted at shared ancestry. Fuji's intentions burned pure, in those early days. He dreamed of preservation and not exploitation. Imagine libraries of genetic data drawn from Mew, not to clone monsters, but to heal, to restore endangered herds in the safari zone, to bolster weak strains against disease in Pallet's labs. He corresponded with Oak, hinting at his find in coded letters, proposing a global sanctuary where Mew could roam free, its secrets shared ethically. Fuji envisioned Kanto as the hub, a beacon of harmonious science, where trainers and researchers coexisted with nature's enigmas. He even built a hidden orphanage in Lavender Town for abandoned Pokémon, a testament to his gentle soul, funding it from his own pockets. But shadows crept in. Word of the Mirage Pokémon leaked through academic circles, twisting Fuji's vision. Ambitious minds in Cineabar's volcanic labs saw not a guardian of life, but a weaponizable miracle. Pressures mounted. Funding dried up unless he shared the sample colleagues whispered of breakthroughs that could end famine or war through bioengineered Pokémon. Fuji's reluctance cracked under the weight. He relinquished the DNA, believing safeguards would hold. What began as a quest for wonder spiraled into something profane, a perversion of his innocence that would ignite catastrophe on an island of fire and forgotten experiments. As the expedition's echoes faded, the true storm brewed closer to home, pulling Mew's legacy into the heart of Kanto's most infamous meltdown. In our next chapter, the Cineabar Island incident, you'll uncover the explosive fallout that turned Fuji's dream into a nightmare of rage and ruin. Stick around, because what escaped those labs changed everything forever. What began as Mr. Fuji's noble quest to unlock the secrets of life in those steamy Guyana jungles soon twisted into something far more sinister once Mew's precious DNA samples made their way back to Kanto. Those vials, shimmering with the promise of every Pokémon's essence, landed not in some sterile university lab, but deep within the opulent halls of the Pokémon Mansion on Cineabar Island, a sprawling estate perched on the edge of an active volcano, where the air hung heavy with sulfur and ambition. You can almost feel the heat rising from the cracked stone floors as teams of scientists, funded by shadowy corporations and rogue researchers, pored over their equipment under flickering fluorescent lights. The mansion wasn't just a building, it was a fortress of forbidden science, its upper floors disguised as a luxurious retreat for elite trainers, while the basement levels burrowed into the volcanic rock like veins pulsing with unethical fire. Here, in rooms lined with humming gene sequencers and bubbling incubation tanks, the cloning experiments ignited, a desperate race to replicate Mew's miraculous genome, driven by whispers of immortality and supremacy. But the ethical lines blurred faster than anyone could redraw them. What started as attempts to preserve endangered species devolved into grotesque trials, splicing Mew's DNA with fragments from common Pokémon, forcing hybrid embryos into artificial wombs that glowed an unnatural purple. Scientists debated late into the night, their voices echoing off vaulted ceilings adorned with faded murals of ancient Pokémon battles. "Is it alive if we made it?" one journal entry reads, smudged with coffee stains and desperation. A consent was a forgotten word. Mew itself, captured and sedated in hidden chambers, became the unwilling mother to abominations that twitched and gasped in their tubes. The air grew thick with the metallic tang of chemicals, and the faint, heartbreaking cries of failed clones dissolving into nutrient sludge. As the experiments escalated, corners were cut, safety protocols ignored, containment fields underpowered to save costs. Mr. Fuji, once the wide-eyed explorer, watched from the shadows, his idealism fracturing as corporate handlers demanded results. They pushed for viability, for something beyond mere copies. A Pokémon engineered for perfection, infused with psychic amplifiers drawn from rare Alakazam specimens. The mansion's generators strained under the load, sparks dancing along exposed wires, and while the volcano outside rumbled like a warning from the earth itself, trainers who visited the surface gym, oblivious to the horrors below, felt subtle tremors they dismissed as natural quakes. Then came the breakthrough, or the catastrophe. Deep in the mansion's core, sublevel B2, the primary gestation chamber hummed to life one stormy night. Alarms blared softly at first, dismissed as glitches, as the tank's violet fluid churned violently. Inside, a form stirred, sleek, armoured, with eyes like twin voids opening for the first time. Mewtwo emerged not as a child of wonder, but a god forged in hubris. 10 times Mew's power, its mind a storm of accelerated intellect, absorbing every thought around it. The scientists cheered through the observation glass, but Mewtwo's gaze pierced their souls, reading the lies, the greed, and the moral rot that birthed it. Containment failed in seconds. Psychic waves shattered the reinforced plexiglass, hurling technicians like ragdolls into walls that buckled and groaned. Tanks exploded in cascades of glowing ooze, igniting electrical fires that spread like venom through the corridors. Mewtwo's roar, a psychic screech that rattled bones and burst eardrums, tore through the mansion, collapsing ceilings and fusing metal with molten rock. Mr. Fuji, scrambling for an escape pod, glimpsed the creature's fury. Clones writhing in agony, data drives melting, the very heart of the lab imploding under raw telekinetic force. The newborn legend vanished into the night, leaving behind a labyrinth of flame and ruin, the volcano's peak belching ash as if in sympathy. Cineabar Island, once Kanto's glittering beacon of innovation, he transformed overnight. Picture it before, a tropical paradise buzzing with tech startups, the Pokémon lab drawing the brightest minds from Saffron and Celadon. Boats docked daily at the bustling harbour, trainers flocked to Blaine's gym for fire-type challenges, and the mansion hosted galas where elites toasted breakthroughs in digital Pokémon like Porygon. Geothermal vents powered endless experiments, making the island a self-sustaining hub where science danced with the wild energy of the sea. But the incident sealed its fate. The destruction triggered secondary eruptions, lava flows swallowing the lab's outer wings, burying server banks and prototype chambers under yards of cooling basalt. Evacuations were chaotic. Survivors spoke in hushed tones of glowing eyes in the smoke, of a presence that lingered. Blaine's gym cracked and tilted, forcing the veteran leader to relocate his collections to safer shores. The harbour silted up with volcanic debris, stranding ships and choking trade routes. What remained of the mansion became a forbidden maze, its diaries and journals scattered like ghosts, testaments to the hubris that turned paradise into a graveyard. Today, you wander Cineabar's ashen beaches, the air still laced with brimstone, and feel the weight of that night. Skeletal girders jut from cooled lava fields, half-buried relics of scanners and cryopods, whispering of what was lost. The island's population dwindled, its tech dreams extinguished, leaving only hardy fire types to roam the scorched slopes. Trainers brave enough to explore the mansion's remnants find echoes of the collapse, faded blueprints of Mewtwo's chamber, claw marks etched into unbreakable alloy, and journals pleading for mercy from the ultimate life form they unleashed. And that being, the psychic titan, born from those ashes, waits in the shadows of Cerulean Cave, its rage tempered but far from forgotten. What secrets does it guard now, and what destiny does it forge for Kanto's future? Stick around for Chapter 8, The Ultimate Life Form, where we uncover the full extent of Mewtwo's power and the chilling path it carved through the region. Trust me, you won't want to miss how it redefined everything we thought we knew. As the containment units shattered in a storm of psychic fury, Mewtwo emerged from the smouldering depths of Pokémon Mansion, its violet eyes glowing with a rage that warped the very air around it. The scientists who had birthed this abomination scattered like leaves in a gale, their screams swallowed by the telekinetic waves that ripped machinery from walls and hurled it into the churning sea beyond Cineabar Island. Mewtwo didn't pursue them, not out of mercy, but because their fragile minds were beneath notice. It had tasted creation's bitter truth, born not from nature's whim, but from human ambition, twisted into violation. In that moment, the ultimate life form chose freedom over vengeance, launching itself skyward on wings of pure psychic force, leaving the island a scar of twisted metal and echoing alarms. The flight from Cineabar was no blind escape. Mewtwo's mind, a vast psychic ocean containing Mew's infinite potential, amplified beyond reckoning, mapped Kanto's contours in an instant. It soared over the indigo waves, crashing against seafoam islands, past the flickering lights of Fuchsia City's safari zone, where wild Pokémon froze mid-prowl, sensing the shadow of something profoundly unnatural blotting the stars. Cerulean City drew it like a magnet, its cave a yawning maw in the Earth's face, hidden behind the gym's cascading waterfalls. Why there? The cave's labyrinthine depths mirrored the labyrinth of its own fractured psyche, endless tunnels plunging into lightless voids, where echoes of dripping water and shifting stone offered solitude unbroken. Mewtwo descended, phasing through rock like mist until it reached the heart, a colossal chamber where bioluminescent fungi cast an ethereal blue glow on jagged stalactites, and underground rivers whispered secrets older than the region itself. There in Cerulean Cave's abyssal core, Mewtwo imposed its exile upon itself. No chains bound it now, yet it chose isolation, curling its massive form amid crystalline formations that hummed with latent energy. The air grew thick, charged with an otherworldly pressure that made the walls seem to breathe. Days blurred into weeks as Mewtwo meditated, probing the DNA woven into its cells. Mew's playful essence corrupted by human greed. Visions assailed it. The jungle where Mew danced unseen, the lab's sterile glow birthing agony, the mansion's collapse. It vowed never to surface lightly, for its power could unmake the world that rejected it. Trainers who ventured too deep felt it first, a creeping dread, like fingers brushing the edges of their thoughts, urging retreat. Wild Pokémon, from Zubat swarms to the rare Golbat, fled the premises, their instincts screaming of a predator beyond food chains. But this was no mere hiding spot. Mewtwo wove a psychic resonance into the cave's fabric, a barrier invisible yet impenetrable. Imagine standing at the entrance, Pokeballs at the ready, only to feel your will dissolve into fog. The resonance pulses like a heartbeat, low and relentless, projecting waves of unease that amplify with proximity. Humans experience it as vertigo, whispers of forgotten fears, childhood terrors, lost battles, the void of defeat. Pokémon fare no better. Their primal senses overload, triggering flight responses etched into their genes. It's a symphony of mental repulsion, tuned to Mewtwo's moods. Calm, it hums softly, deterring casual explorers. Enraged, it lashes out with illusions of crumbling earth or spectral claws. Even the most determined, like Red after conquering the Elite Four, must pierce it through sheer willpower, their victory a testament to spirit over science's spawn. What sustains this exile? Mewtwo's power defies erosion. Unlike legendaries bound by myth, its artificial perfection. Every cell optimized, psychic might unbound by evolution's limits. It regenerates from wounds that would fell gods, manipulates probability with a thought, and communes with shadows of Mew across dimensions. Researchers whisper of failed copycats. Johto's experiments crumbled, Hoenn's cyber beasts paled, Sinnoh's creations fractured under strain. Mewtwo remains the benchmark because it shattered its mold. No Silph Company prototype, no Cineabar Redux has matched its Genesis paradox. Born from theft, yet surpassing the thief. In Kanto's lore, it embodies the hubris of creation, a mirror to humanity's drive, lurking as both warning and aspiration. Even now, echoes of that resonance ripple outward, felt by psychics in Saffron's towers or trainers meditating in Viridian Forest. Mewtwo watches, waits, its mind a fortress charting the region's pulse. Oak's labs, Giovanni's schemes, the endless badge quests. But shadows stir elsewhere, criminal hands, plotting to exploit Kanto's fractures. Up next in Chapter 9, The Rise of Team Rocket, we'll uncover how a syndicate born in secrecy turned Pokémon into pawns, their ambitions clashing with forces like Mewtwo itself. What hidden operations brewed while the ultimate lifeform slumbered? Stay with us. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious. Where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. While Mewtwo brooded in the uncharted depths of Cerulean Cave, its psychic barriers pulsing like an invisible storm to ward off any intruders, a far more insidious force was already weaving its web across Kanto's sunlit streets and shadowed alleys. You could feel it in the air of Viridian City, that subtle undercurrent of power, where the Grand Gym stood as a beacon of strength for aspiring trainers, its doors flung wide to welcome challengers from every corner of the region. Giovanni commanded that gym with the poise of a king, his sharp eyes scanning every battle from the elevated platform, Earth badge gleaming on his chest like a trophy of unchallenged dominance. Trainers whispered his name in awe, picturing him as the pinnacle of the gym leader circuit, a man whose Raiden and Nidoqueen crushed opponents with seismic force, their roars echoing off the marble walls. He hosted lavish tournaments under the open sky, where the scent of fresh-cut grass mingled with the ozone crackle of electric attacks, drawing crowds that swelled Viridian's population overnight. To the world, he embodied Kanto's competitive spirit, a pillar of the league system that Professor Oak himself endorsed. But beneath that polished facade, Giovanni lived a fractured existence, slipping away at dusk through hidden tunnels beneath the gym, emerging in smoke-filled backrooms where loyalty was bought with cold cash and fear. He wasn't just a gym leader, he was the architect of Team Rocket, and a sprawling crime syndicate that stretched its tentacles from Kanto's ports to distant continents, smuggling rare Pokémon across borders under the cover of merchant ships laden with exotic spices and silks. His office in the gym doubled as a nerve center, safes bulging with pilfered Pokeballs, maps marked with raid targets glowing under dim lamplight. Team Rocket didn't start as this behemoth. Picture its humble origins in the gritty underbelly of Celadon City, back when it was little more than a ragtag gang of opportunists, scrapping for survival in the neon haze of game corner arcades. Led by low-level thugs in makeshift black uniforms, they pulled off petty heists, snatching unattended Growlithe from Pallet Town yards, or waylaying Vermilion fishermen for their Magikarp hauls. The air reeked of cheap cigarettes and desperation in those early dens, hidden in abandoned warehouses where the drip of leaky roofs matched the rhythm of their frantic planning sessions. Giovanni saw potential in that chaos, injecting his fortune from gym prize money and shadowy investors to transform them. He professionalized the operation with ruthless efficiency, turning theft into a science. Uniforms became sleek, emblazoned with the crimson R that struck terror into trainers' hearts. They built hidden bases beneath the earth, like the labyrinth under Celadon, where elevators hummed day and night, ferrying stolen goods to processing floors, alive with the clatter of machinery, sorting fossils from Silph Co prototypes. Revenue poured in from black market auctions in Saffron's underground clubs, geared where elite buyers bid fortunes on legendary specimens, their voices hushed amid velvet curtains and the flicker of holographic displays. What began as street-level grabs evolved into corporate raids, infiltrating Pokémon centers for evolutionary stones, hijacking transport trucks bound for Cineabar's labs, even diving into the Seafoam Islands for Articuno feathers that fetched prices rivaling gold. Giovanni's vision fueled this ascent. Pokémon weren't companions or friends. They were tools, commodities to be harvested, trained, and sold for maximum profit. He preached this doctrine in clandestine meetings, his voice steady as steel, pounding podiums while grunts nodded in fervent agreement. "Why bond when you can command?" he'd say. demonstrating with his Persian, its claws extended, not in play, but in calculated menace. This philosophy seeped into every operation, twisting Kanto's sacred trainer Pokémon bond into something mechanical, profane. Trainers who once nurtured their teams through heartfelt journeys now faced rockets, who viewed a Pikachu as mere electricity on legs, a Venusaur as a walking greenhouse for illicit herbs. It eroded the moral fabric of the region, whispering doubts into young minds. Why cherish when you can exploit? You see it in the orphaned Pokémon, left trembling in raided roots, their eyes hollow from forced battles in underground fighting rings, where the crowd's cheers drowned out whimpers of pain. Lavender Tower became a grim testament, ghosts of stolen Cubone rattling chains in protest, their skulls commodified for morbid trinkets. Giovanni's empire profited from this detachment, amassing wealth that funded tech upgrades, hypno devices to pacify guards, cloaking fields for stealth insertions, pushing Team Rocket toward global dominance. Whispers spread of alliances with foreign syndicates, shipments vanishing into Johto's ports, hinting at ambitions that dwarfed Kanto's borders. Yet cracks formed in this monolithic rise. Trainers like Red began noticing patterns. The vanishing Lapras pods off Cineabar, the surge in counterfeit badges flooding pewter markets. Giovanni's dual life strained under the weight, his gym battles growing fiercer, as if channeling the syndicate's aggression into public spectacles. Grunts grumbled in barracks about endless quotas, their loyalty fraying as moral qualms surfaced amid the stolen cries echoing through ventilation shafts. This philosophy didn't just threaten pockets, and it assaulted the soul of Kanto, where Professor Oak's ideals of harmony clashed against Giovanni's cold calculus. Villages like Pallet felt the chill, parents barring doors at night, fearing the telltale hover of rocket balloons blotting out stars. The syndicate's shadow lengthened, poised to strike at the heart of technological innovation, where one desperate siege would expose the fragility of it all. And that's where we'll pick up next, in Chapter 10, the Silph Company siege, a turning point that nearly shattered Saffron's gleaming towers forever. Giovanni's transformation of Team Rocket into a sleek corporate machine didn't stop at shadowy theft rings. It propelled them toward their most audacious strike yet, a full-scale invasion of Silph Company, the gleaming nerve center of Saffron City. Picture the towering headquarters and a monolith of glass and steel rising 30 floors above the bustling streets, its labs humming with the future of Pokémon capture technology. This wasn't just any corporate raid, it was a siege that brought Kanto's economic engine to its knees. Saffron City sits at the absolute heart of the region, a crossroads where the magnet train from Johto whistles in on elevated tracks, linking east to west like the veins of a colossal body. Traders flood its markets with rare berries from the south, gym challengers converge on the fighting dojo, and executives in sharp suits negotiate deals that ripple across every corner of Kanto. But Silph Company was the true pulse. Founded decades before the great Pokémon boom, it pioneered the mass production of Pokéballs, those crimson capsules that turned wild encounters into loyal companions. Without Silph, and no trainer could stock their belt, no gym leader could battle effectively, and the entire league circuit would grind to a halt. Saffron wasn't just strategic, it was indispensable, a single point of failure that Giovanni knew could topple giants. And then there was the Master Ball. Whispers in the research corridors spoke of it as Silph's Holy Grail, a prototype sphere engineered not just to capture, but to ensnare any Pokémon, no matter how legendary or defiant. Unlike standard balls that relied on weakening the target or sheer luck, the Master Ball deployed an ultra-compressed energy field, a shimmering violet aura that neutralized resistance in seconds. Engineers had spent years perfecting its molecular lattice, drawing from Mew's elusive DNA samples smuggled from Guyana expeditions. The first successful test, they say, had happened in a sealed chamber on the 27th floor, where a rampaging Tyranitar folded into the ball without a twitch. Mass production was weeks away, promising to democratize the capture of mythics like Articuno or even Mewtwo itself. Silph's board envisioned it reshaping the league, turning elite trainers into gods among collectors. Team Rocket struck at dawn when the first shift of scientists sipped coffee in the lobby atrium. Grunts in fresh black uniforms, backed by an army of commandeered Raticate and Zubats, sealed every entrance with electrified barriers. Explosions rocked the lower levels, shattering glass that rained like deadly confetti onto the streets below. Giovanni himself oversaw the operation from a commandeered executive suite, his Persian lounging at his feet as he issued commands via encrypted radio. They didn't come for cash, they wanted control. Rocket operatives flooded the R&D floors, laser-sighted rifles trained on cowering technicians, forcing key engineers to unlock vault after vault. The air grew thick with the ozone tang of discharged thunderbolts and the panicked cries of lab Pokémon breaking free from their habitats. By midday, Silph Company was a fortress under rocket occupation. Trainers from across Kanto rallied outside, but the building's reinforced structure turned it into an impregnable maze. Inside, floors became battlegrounds. The 10th level saw a brutal clash where a lone Silph guard's Alakazam teleported grunts into holding cells, only for a Weezing's explosion to breach the walls. Giovanni's strategy was surgical. Cut off Pokeball shipments first, starving the market. Saffron's economy, already humming on Silph's output, began to sputter. Gyms postponed matches for lack of supplies, black markets tripled prices on smuggled balls, and ripple effects hit Pallet Town's labs, where Professor Oak watched his research stall without fresh captures. Kanto teetered on collapse, factories idled, trainers grounded, the league's prestige fracturing as challengers abandoned quests. Giovanni's gamble nearly worked, holding the region hostage to his demands for legitimacy in the gym system. Deeper in the chaos, amid the flickering emergency lights and acrid smoke, something far more sinister unfolded. Silph's black site prototypes, hidden in sub-basement vaults, accessible only by retinal scan, vanished into rocket hands. These weren't mere evolutions of the Master Ball. Schematics detailed the Shadow Ball, a prototype infused with Dark-type essence to corrupt loyalties mid-capture. Others whispered of the Hyperball lineage, spheres that could chain capture entire herds in wild grass. But the crown jewels? Experimental Ultra Balls, laced with spatial warping tech, derived from Bill's grandfather's PC research, capable of pulling Pokémon from across dimensions. Guards reported visions of glowing orbs, snatched by cloaked figures, perhaps Archer or Proton themselves, before psychic barriers slammed shut. Some prototypes detonated in the frenzy, unleashing prototype energies that warped corridors into labyrinths, trapping grunts in eternal loops. Others made it out, fueling Rocket's later abominations in the Sevi Islands. The siege dragged on for days, a pressure cooker of desperation. Silph employees barricaded conference rooms, piping oxygen through vents, while rocket patrols echoed boots on marble. Outside, the magnet train halted, stranding passengers who became unwitting informants. Giovanni broadcast ultimatums from the rooftop helipad, his voice booming over Saffron's speakers. Surrender the Master Ball patents, or watch Kanto's trainer economy bleed out. Factories in Celadon and Vermilion shuttered. Berry farmers in Fuchsia lost markets. Even the Indigo Plateau felt the pinch as Elite Four preparations faltered. It was economic warfare at its peak, Team Rocket proving they could choke the life from innovation itself. Yet cracks formed. A young trainer, fresh from pallets with badges glinting on their jacket, slipped past the perimeter through Saffron's sewers, warping floors with a traded Abra. Floor by floor, they dismantled Rocket's grip, culminating in a showdown with Giovanni in the executive suite. Persian slashes met defiant counters, and as the boss retreated, the siege crumbled. Silph staff emerged blinking into sunlight, vaults recounted, But the damage lingered. Production lines took months to restart, the economy limped with inflated prices, and trust in corporate security shattered forever. Those stolen prototypes? Their shadows loomed large. Rumours persist that Rocket reverse-engineered them into the safari balls of the distant reserves, or worse, infused them into Giovanni's personal arsenal for Mount Silver confrontations. Some say fragments resurfaced in Johto's black markets, altering wild encounters in ways that defied nature. Silph never fully recovered its edge, the Master Ball doled out sparingly as a guarded secret, a reminder of vulnerability. As the dust settled in Saffron, another shadow stirred far to the east, where the spires of Lavender Town pierced a perpetually misty sky. Whispers of unrest there, tied to ghosts and silenced cries, would soon demand attention. Stick around for Chapter 11, the Lavender Town Mystery, where we'll uncover the chilling veil over that haunted corner of Kanto. You won't believe the spectral secrets waiting in the fog. As the dust settled from Team Rocket's grip on Silph Company, with Saffron's economy teetering on the brink, and that precious Master Ball finally wrested from their hands, Kanto's gaze turned northeast to a place few dared whisper about after dark. Lavender Town stands as the quiet pulse of the region, its violet-hued streets wrapping around the Pokémon Tower like a shroud. They're built not by modern architects, but raised upon the bones of an ancient burial ground that predates even the Hero Can's unification. Long before gym leaders or Pokédexes etched their mark on the land, this mound served as a sacred necropolis for the earliest Kantonians, tribes who revered Pokémon spirits as guardians of the afterlife. They interred their fallen companions here, under lavender fields that bloomed eternally purple, believing the flower's essence trapped wandering souls, preventing them from lashing out at the living. When urban sprawl pushed outward from Saffron, the tower's foundation pierced that hallowed earth without a second thought. Concrete footings grinding through clay urns filled with fossilized bones and etched prayer stones. Grave diggers unearthed relics, a snarling aerodactyl skull here, and a cluster of ghastly wisps preserved in amber there. But construction pressed on, sealing unrest beneath layers of solemn marble. What rose above was no mere monument, it became Kanto's spiritual heart, a vertical labyrinth where the veil between worlds thinned and echoes of the prehistoric dead mingled with the grief of modern trainers laying their Pokémon to rest. You can almost feel it as you climb those spiraling stairs, the air growing colder with each step, heavy with the scent of wilted lavender and faint ozone from spectral discharges. Shadows twist unnaturally in the corners. Whispers slither along the walls like wind through cracked tombs. And suddenly, you're not alone. Ethereal eyes glow from the gloom, Silph scopes flickering to reveal the unseen mourners. This isn't just a tower. It's a beacon drawing every restless spirit in Kanto, from forgotten wild Pokémon felled by ancient battles to loyal partners lost in gym challenges gone wrong. The ancient burial ground beneath amplifies it all, its primal energy fueling hauntings that no exorcism could quell, turning Lavender into a town where night falls heavier than anywhere else in the region. At the epicenter of this spectral storm lies the tragic tale of Marowak, a story that cuts deeper than any ghost's chill. Deep in the misty foothills bordering Rock Tunnel, a lone Marowak mother roamed with her Cubone child, her bone club cracked from endless defense against poachers who stalked the lonely paths for rare hides and fossils. These weren't opportunistic thieves, they were precursors to Team Rocket's operations, ruthless scavengers stripping the wilds bare during Kanto's early resource boom. One fog-shrouded evening, they cornered her, spears flashing under lantern light, her final roar echoing as she shielded her young one before crumpling lifeless to the earth. The Cubone, masked in grief, wandered shell-shocked into Lavender Town, drawn by an instinctual pull toward the tower's promise of peace. Mr. Fuji, the kindly elder you'd later know from whispers of jungle expeditions and shadowed labs, ran the Fuji orphanage just downhill from the tower, a modest haven tucked amid lavender hedges, its walls lined with cribs for abandoned Pokémon eggs and healing salves for the battered. Fuji had seen too much loss in his years. Rumours swirled that his own hands once tinkered with forbidden genetics, far from prying eyes. But here he poured his soul into mending the broken. He took in the orphaned Cubone, nursing it through nights of fevered cries, its mask fused permanently from unending sorrow. Yet peace eluded them. Marowak's spirit refused the tower's embrace, rising furious and vengeful, her translucent form haunting the 7th floor, where Team Rocket grunts later nested like rats in the rafters. Fuji tried everything. Ancient incantations scrawled on scrolls from the burial mound's depths, lavender incense burned in ritual circles, even pleading with the tower's monk guardians. But Marowak's rage burned eternal, her bone clubs swinging through solid matter, driving away visitors and Pokémon alike. She manifested not as a mindless spectre, but a mother's fury incarnate, blocking the path to the tower's apex, her cries piercing the soul like a haunter's lick. The haunting spilled over to the orphanage. Toys rattled in empty rooms at midnight, cribs overturned by invisible hands, and the Cubone itself would stare vacant-eyed toward the tower, refusing food until Fuji's voice alone could soothe it. Trainers who climbed to confront her felt the weight of that maternal bond, their own Pokémon cowering as psychic waves of loss crashed over them. Marowak wasn't possessing. She was mourning, demanding justice for the child left motherless in a world of endless battles. Word of these events rippled beyond Kanto's borders, but nothing cemented Lavender's legend like the eerie chime that seeped from every Game Boy screen in 1996. Deep in the original red and blue cartridges, as you navigated the tower's gloom, a melody played, a 4-note dirge warped by the system's primitive sound chip into something unearthly, dubbed the Lavender Town tone. High-pitched, oscillating between piercing squeals and dissonant hums, it burrowed into ears like a parasect spore, allegedly triggering headaches, nausea, even seizures in young players across Japan. Children clutched their heads after prolonged exposure, parents yanked cartridges from consoles, hospitals reported clusters of eerie symptoms tied to that purple town. Game Freak dismissed it as hysteria at first, tweaking the pitch for international releases, but the damage was done. The syndrome exploded into urban legend, spawning bootleg tapes circulated in schoolyards, distorted audio files that warped further with each copy, convincing thousands they'd glimpsed the tower's ghosts through their screens. Forums buzzed with eyewitness tales, radios picking up the tone unplugged, pets howling in sync, dreams haunted by Marowak's silhouette. It wove into Pokémon lore as a cornerstone, blurring game and reality. Was it coincidence? Or did the ancient burial ground's resonance bleed through the code itself? Researchers pored over waveforms. Conspiracy theorists claimed hidden frequencies summoned real spirits, and even today, remastered versions carry faint echoes, a nod to that real-world shiver. Lavender Town endures as Kanto's unspoken truth, where science meets the supernatural, and every chime reminds you the dead never truly leave. Fuji's orphanage still stands in quiet vigil, a testament to bonds unbroken by death, while the tower looms eternal, guarding secrets that even Mewtwo's psychic storms couldn't unearth. As we peel back these layers, the rivalries forged in Pallet Town's shadow come into sharper focus, pulling us toward clashes that reshape champions forever. Up next in Chapter 12, the rivalry that defined a generation, where one boy's ambition ignites a fire no badge could contain. As the echoes of Marowak's restless spirit finally faded from Lavender Town's shadowed tower, Kanto turned its gaze eastward to Pallet Town, where the real fire of ambition was just igniting in the hearts of two boys destined to reshape the region. Professor Samuel Oak, the elder sage, whose name evoked decades of Pokémon scholarship, watched from his cluttered laboratory as his own grandson, Blue, snatched a Charmander from the starter tray with a smirk that cut sharper than any blade. Blue wasn't just picking a partner, he was declaring war on mediocrity, but on the shadow of his grandfather's legacy that had loomed over him since childhood. Oak had been no mere academic in his youth. He'd roamed Kanto's wilds, collected badges, and stared down beasts that would break lesser men. Stories of his triumphs filled Blue's ears from toddlerhood, whispered over dinner tables in that sleepy village where sea breezes carried the salt of Cineabar's distant shores. But those tales twisted inside Blue like a coiled Ekans. Every lecture from Oak about patience, about the bond between trainer and Pokémon, felt like a veiled challenge. "You're Oak's grandson," the town whispered. "You'll eclipse him." Blue internalized it as a curse, a psychological vice, tightening with each passing year. He trained in secret behind the lab, pushing his mother's Growlithe until it collapsed, sketching battle strategies on scraps of paper until his fingers cramped. Surpassing expectations wasn't a goal, it was survival. The only way to prove he wasn't just the professor's shadow, but the sun that would burn it away. Pallet Town, that unassuming cluster of red-roofed homes hugging the cliffs, birthed not one but two prodigies that summer. While Blue embodied raw hunger, his rival from across the street embodied something quieter, more deliberate, a path forged in response to Blue's taunts, yet veering sharply into heroism amid Kanto's gathering storms. Both received their Pokédexes from Oak's hands. Both stepped onto Route 1 with the weight of destiny on their shoulders. Blue rocketed ahead, his Charizard scorching through gyms like a meteor. Pewter's Brock fell to his claws in a blaze of fury. Cerulean's Misty watched her Starmie shatter under a seismic toss. Blue's team grew ruthless, a mirror of his drive. Pidgeot slicing skies, Raiden pulverizing stone, Alakazam bending minds to his will. He mocked his rival at every turn, phone calls laced with venom. "Catch up if you can, loser." But beneath it pulsed a deeper rivalry, two sons of Pallet diverging like rivers from the same spring. Blue's path twisted toward power's pinnacle, unburdened by the moral quagmires ensnaring others. While Team Rocket's shadow lengthened over Saffron and Silph Co, Blue bypassed their lairs, eyes fixed on Indigo Plateau. He collected badges, not for glory alone, but to etch his name deeper than Oak's ever had. Vermilion's Surge saluted his electric grit. Fuchsia's Koga tested his poisons, only to yield. Blue's 8th badge from Viridian, Giovanni's own, though the rocket boss concealed his syndicate scars, unlocked the league. Whispers spread through Celadon taverns. Oak's boy was unstoppable. His battles spectacles of calculated dominance, arenas trembling under footfalls of his unleashed monsters. His rival, meanwhile, carved a jagged trail through Kanto's underbelly. That other pallet trainer tangled with rocket grunts in Mount Moon's caverns, infiltrated the SS Anne's fog-shrouded decks, stormed the Lavender Tower, where ghosts still wailed. Divergent paths, yes, one chasing badges in the light, the other dismantling crime in the dark. Blue sneered at the delays, but they honed a different edge, resilience born of ethical fire, teams tempered by Mewtwo's distant psychic ripples and the Master Ball's gleaming promise. Pallet wasn't just their birthplace, it was ground zero for a generational schism. Two trainers pulling Kanto's future in opposite directions, yet both inexorably toward collision. The air atop Indigo Plateau crackled with history that fateful day, the summit where Hero Khan himself had once bound the warring clans. Crowds swelled from Saffron's magnet rails, bets flying thicker than Pidgeiflocks. Blue, barely into his teens, strode into the champion's chamber after dismantling the Elite Four. Lorelei's ice shattered, Bruno's muscle crushed, Agatha's ghosts banished, Lance's dragons humbled in a roar that echoed to Pallet's shores. Lance, the Dragon Master, whose eyrie overlooked the plateau's jagged spires, conceded with a nod, his Dragonite slumping in defeat. Blue had done it, toppled the unbeatable, claimed the throne as Kanto's youngest champion in recorded history, his name inscribed in gold leaf before the ink could dry. Oak watched from the stands, pride warring with something unspoken, a flicker of recognition that his grandson had not just met expectations, but shattered them. Blue hoisted the trophy, Charmander's evolved blaze illuminating his triumphant grin, the crowd's roar drowning Route 23's winds. Reporters swarmed. "How does it feel to outshine Professor Oak?" Blue's reply cut deep. "Grandpa taught me the game. I just won it." That moment defined a generation, not through Mewtwo's rage or Rocket's fall, but through Rivalry's pure flame. Palette's sons proving small towns birthed titans. Yet as Blue savoured his crown, basking in the plateau's eternal twilight, where legendary birds once wheeled, on a shadow stirred from the rival's path. One Palette trainer crowned in glory, the other vanishing into Mount Silver's mists, silent, unbreakable, ready to upend it all. That story unfolds next in The Silent Protagonist. While Blue surged ahead, driven by that burning need to eclipse his grandfather's shadow, his rival from Palette Town carved a quieter path, one that would quietly reshape the entire region. You know him as Red, the boy who stepped out of that sleepy little town with nothing but a fresh Pokédex and a starter Pokémon nestled in his pack. No fanfare, no speeches, just a determined stride toward Route 1, where the tall grass whispered secrets of battles yet to come. Palette Town had always been a cradle of beginnings, tucked against the sea with its red-roofed labs and winding paths leading to the wider world. Professor Oak handed Red his choice: Bulbasaur's sturdy vines, Charmander's flickering tail flame, or Squirtle's steadfast shell, and tasked him with documenting every Pokémon from here to the horizon. It was a mission that started simple: catch, train, badge after badge. But Red didn't just collect victories, he orchestrated them. Viridian's earthy trials against Giovanni's grounded forces? Red anticipated every Raiden charge, countering with swift aerial strikes that turned the gym leader's own terrain against him. Pewter's rocky caverns echoed with Brock's Geodude, crumbling under precise water assaults, Red already scouting evolutions weeks ahead. As he pressed north to Cerulean, the stakes twisted. Team Rocket grunts swarmed Mount Moon, their stolen fossils glinting under flashlight beams. But Red dismantled their patrols with surgical precision, luring Rockets into fossilized traps where his Pokémon struck from the shadows of stalactites. Misty's watery arena became a showcase of his foresight. He evolved his starters mid-journey, timing torrent activations to overwhelm her Starmie in a cascade of pressurized jets. Each gym badge pinned to his jacket wasn't luck. It was calculus, type matchups calculated on the fly, levels grinded in hidden routes, items scavenged from forgotten corners. By the time SS Anne docked in Vermilion, Red had a team forged for war, not parades. And war it became. Team Rocket's shadow lengthened across Kanto, their hideouts pulsing like infected veins. In the Celadon game corner, Red infiltrated beneath neon lights and slot machine din, a navigating conveyor belt slick with oil and guarded by electrode that detonated on missteps. He didn't charge blindly. He mapped the labyrinth from overheard grunt chatter, disabling lifts with targeted thunder waves before they could summon reinforcements. Lavender Tower's spectral moans masked rocket experiments on captured Pokémon, but Red silenced the cries, his ghost-resistant picks phasing through Haunter illusions, striking at the cubic heart of their operation. Marowak's vengeful spirit lingered in the air, a chill that fueled his resolve. Saffron City's siege tested everything. Silph Company's gleaming towers, birthplace of the Master Ball, crawled with rocket executives barking orders through warped speakers. Red slipped past warp panels like a ghost, allying with the building's trapped scientists who whispered layouts in hushed tones. Giovanni waited at the summit, his Persian's claws raking marble floors, but Red had studied the man's Viridian style, ground-heavy, relentless. He countered with a flying fortress, Pidgeot diving through smoke grenades, while his ace unleashed solar beams that cracked the executive floor wide open. Rockets scattered, their syndicate fracturing under the weight of one trainer's unyielding strategy. Giovanni slunk back to his gym, defeated but not done, as Kanto exhaled. The road to Cineabar twisted through Fuchsia's safari haze and Indigo's foggy roots. Red's Pokédex, now a tome of over 150 entries. Blaine's volcanic puzzles melted under calculated ice beam volleys. Erica's petal storms parted by fire's roar. Victory Road's labyrinth bowed to his memory. Every twist memorized, every wild encounter turned to advantage. Then the plateau loomed, but before that final gauntlet, whispers reached him of Cerulean Cave's guardian, the cloned nightmare we'd traced earlier. Mewtwo's psychic barriers hummed like distant thunder, repelling all but the worthy. Red ventured in alone, the cave's dripping echoes amplifying his footsteps. No words exchanged, just a clash of raw power, Mewtwo's tail lashing shadows, while Red's team adapted, exploiting every cloned flaw until the ultimate lifeform yielded, vanishing deeper into exile. Elite Four awaited, their chambers a crescendo of elemental fury. Lorelei's icy gales met Red's firestorm. Bruno's muscle yielded to psychic precision. Agatha's ghosts faltered against pure dark intent. Lance's dragons, so revered in ancient Khan myths, shattered under earthquake rumbles, Red had primed from Cinnabar's depths. Champion Blue stood at the end, his team a mirror of Red's own evolutions, but worn by overconfidence. Their battle raged across the hall, Alakazam warping space, Raiden quaking the arena, until Red's final command sealed it. Kanto's savior, badges gleaming, Pokédex complete. The region breathed free. Team Rocket's empire in ruins, legends tamed, yet triumph tasted fleeting. Red didn't linger for crowds or ceremonies. He turned his gaze upward, to the silver peaks, where Hero Khan had banished the legendary birds eons ago. Mount Silver called, a frozen colossus piercing storm clouds, its caverns laced with perpetual blizzards and echoing roars. Why vanish there? Some say it was the weight of victory, the realization that true mastery lay beyond leagues and spotlights. Others whisper of Mewtwo's lingering psychic echo, urging solitude for deeper bonds with Pokémon. Red sought the pinnacle, training in isolation, where blizzards honed reflexes and avalanches tested unbreakable wills. No more rivals, no more saves, just eternal pursuit of perfection, his silhouette etched against eternal snows. Years later, when Johto's champion crossed the sea, magnet train humming through Saffron's rebuilt spires, they found him there. Silent, cap-shadowing eyes that had seen Kanto's soul. That battle atop Mount Silver, a testament to Red's genius, undimmed by time. But his story threads back to Indigo's heart, where those Elite Four Guardians first measured his worth. And speaking of those formidable sentinels, join me next for Chapter 14, the Indigo Plateau Elite, where we'll peel back the veils on the warriors who nearly ended Red's legend before it peaked. With Red standing victorious atop the Indigo Plateau, his Pokédex humming faintly in the chill mountain air, you might think the story ends there. The novice from Pallet Town, who outmaneuvered an empire of thieves and toppled the region's unbreakable guardians. But those guardians, the Elite Four, weren't just final hurdles. They were living legends, each a master of elements that shaped Kanto's soul, bound in a hierarchy as rigid and unforgiving as the plateau's jagged peaks. Picture the ascent to their domain, a winding path carved into the heart of the Indigo Mountains, where fog clings to ancient stone steps like a shroud, and the wind carries whispers of battles long past. But this is no ordinary league finale. It's a gauntlet of 4 chambers, each sealed behind massive doors, etched with runes of power. The hierarchy unfolds in perfect elemental sequence, a deliberate flow mirroring the Hero Khan myth itself, starting with the frozen bite of the north, building through raw physical fury, delving into spectral shadows, and culminating in draconic fire that scorches the sky. First stands Lorelei, the icy sovereign of the opening chamber. Her domain chills you to the bone before you even cross the threshold. Walls slick with perpetual frost, the air so crisp it numbs your fingertips, and her dugong gliding across an arena of fractured ice like a spectre from the Seafoam Island's depths. Lorelei doesn't just command ice types, she embodies their merciless grace, and her Lapras summoning blizzards that turn the floor into a lethal mirror maze. Born from Kanto's coastal clans, she rose through the ranks by taming the primal fury of glacial waters, her strategies weaving hydro pump precision with sheer cold finality. Trainers who falter here learn quickly. Her elemental mastery isn't brute force, but a slow, inexorable freeze that claims victory without a sound, echoing the legendary bird's icy exile to Mount Silver. As you push deeper, shaking off the frostbite, Bruno awaits in the second sanctum, a cavernous dojo pulsing with the thunder of impacts, sweat and stone dust thick in the air. This is the fighter's forge, where every punch from his onyx cracks the earth, and his Machamp's forearms become a whirlwind of seismic toss devastation. Bruno, the unyielding pillar of physical dominance, hails from the rugged highlands near Mount Silver, his body a map of scars from endless training regimens that blur the line between man and machine. His hierarchy role is clear, the muscle testing your resolve, countering Lorelei's chill with rockslide avalanches and high jump kick barrages that demand you match raw power or shatter. He grunts philosophies of discipline mid-battle. His Polyrath submission holds teaching that true strength isn't in Pokémon alone, but in the unbreakable bond forged through sweat-soaked trials, a direct lineage to the warring clans Hero Can subdued. But the true shadows gather in the third chamber, where Agatha reigns as the Ghost Queen, her presence alone dimming the torches to flickering embers. The air grows heavy here, laced with the sickly sweet rot of Gengar's poison grin and Arbok's coiled menace. At the floor a mosaic of cracked graves that seem to shift underfoot. Agatha's mastery twists ghost and poison into nightmares, hypnosis lulling foes into eternal slumber, Shadow Ball curses exploding from the ether, turning her arena into a haunted labyrinth where visibility fades and doubt creeps in like fog from Lavender Tower. She's no mere battler, she's Kanto's keeper of the unseen, her haunter phasing through defences with otherworldly cunning, her elemental command a venomous symphony that preys on fear itself. Yet beneath that withered exterior lies a grudge as deep as the poisonous swamps she once roamed, a bitter feud with Professor Samuel Oak that fractured Kanto's scholarly heart decades ago. It started in their youth, both aides under the enigmatic Professor Maple in Cerulean Labs, poring over PokePC prototypes amid stacks of genetic data from Mew's first whispers. Oak, ever the optimist, chased the light of discovery, publishing breakthroughs on Pokémon bonds that catapulted him to Pallet Town fame. Agatha, though, delved into the darkness, experimenting with spectral energies and toxin evolutions that Oak deemed unethical, calling her work a poison to progress. Their rift exploded during a joint expedition to the Pokémon Tower grounds, where Agatha's ghastly rituals unearthed spirits Oak swore were restless souls deserving peace, not harnessed power. He publicly denounced her, blocking her research grants and branding her an outcast, while she retaliated by sabotaging his early Pokédex trials with cursed artifacts that haunted his dreams. The wound never healed, even now as you face her cackling Gengar. Her eyes, sharp as drowsy needles, hold that old venom for the grandfather of your rival Blue. Oak's legacy shines in Pallet, but Agatha's shadows ensure Kanto remembers the cost of turning away from the abyss. Finally, the pinnacle, Lance, the Dragon Lord and reigning champion, his chamber an open-air coliseum under storm-racked skies, thunder rumbling like the roar of his Dragonite. Cloaked in crimson cape, billowing like wings, he commands the apex of the hierarchy. Dragon and flying types that soar with Aerod blast gales and hyper beam infernos, his Gyarados thrashing seas into tempests from the league's central pool. Lance isn't just Kanto's strongest, he's the vital bridge to ancient myths, weaving the Hero Can saga's clan unifications with Johto's dragon traditions across the eastern seas. Legends whisper of his lineage tracing to the dragon clans, exiled with the birds to Mount Silver, where he trained amid ruins holding dragonite fossils and dragon-scale relics smuggled from Johto's Blackthorn city. His role transcends battles. As champion, he guards the Indigo League's secrets, mentoring successors like Blue, while secretly allying with Kanto's gym leaders against threats like Mewtwo's rampages. Lance's mastery fuses elemental fury, earthquake quakes from his Aerodactyl, outrage frenzies from Dragonite, into a philosophy of noble guardianship. His speeches mid-duel, invoking the day he'll tame the untamed skies, linking Kanto's foundations to Johto's draconic heart. These four aren't random powerhouses. Their sequence, ice to fight, ghost to dragon, mirrors Kanto's elemental cycle, and a deliberate gauntlet forcing trainers to adapt or perish, much like Red did with his tactical brilliance. Lorelei freezes your plans, Bruno shatters your defenses, Agatha poisons your confidence, and Lance demands you claim the throne through transcendent might. Even in defeat, they linger in the lore, their Pokémon echoing across regions. Bruno's disciples in Johto dojos, Agatha's ghosts in Unova towers, Lance's dragons roaring in Kalos skies. But as Red descends the plateau, Pokeballs warm in his pockets, whispers persist of horizons beyond even Lance's gaze, uncharted waters hiding Kanto's final secrets. That tale unfolds in Chapter 15, the Sevi Islands expansion, where volcanic mysteries and forgotten clans await to redefine the region's hidden edges. With the echoes of Lance's dragon cries still fading from the Indigo Plateau, and Agatha's unresolved grudge against Oak casting long shadows over Kanto's triumphs, true mastery demanded you venture beyond the mainland's familiar shores. What few champions ever pursued lay hidden in the southern seas, a scattered chain of emerald isles known as the Sevi Islands, where the salty spray of waves met the rustle of palm fronds, and the horizons stretched toward realms yet undiscovered. Picture yourself stepping off the ferry from Vermilion's bustling docks, the wooden vessel creaking as it nudges against one island's sun-bleached pier. The air hangs heavy, with the scent of tropical blooms and distant volcanic ash, a world apart from Kanto's crisp forests and steel spires. These 7 islands, clustered like forgotten jewels in the ocean's embrace, have always served as Kanto's quiet gateway to the south. Ancient trade routes once plied by wooden ships laden with spices and rare stones, now echoing with the cries of Wingle wheeling overhead. Explorers from Pallet Town whispered of them in hushed tones, tales of hidden coves where the sea meets sheer cliffs, and lagoons so clear you could count the scales on a Corsola below. But the Sevi Islands weren't just paradise unspoiled. They pulsed with purpose, a natural extension of Kanto's spirit of discovery. Salio, the reclusive scientist, holed up in one island's Pokémon Center, held the key. His lab, a modest dome of glass and humming servers overlooking Kindle Road's fiery trails, dreamed bigger than any Saffron Tower. Celio confided in you, his voice steady amid the whir of machinery, that Kanto's Pokémon storage system felt isolated, cut off from the wider world. He needed 2 legendary gems, the Ruby and the Sapphire, to power a network bridge, linking Pallet Town's labs to distant horizons. Without them, trainers like you were trapped in a single region's echo chamber. Your journey began on Kindle Road, where the ground trembled underfoot from Moltres' distant lair on Mount Ember, its peak a smouldering silhouette against crimson sunsets. Ash scattered like black snow as you delved into the mountain's heart, navigating lava tubes where the air shimmered with heat haze and Golbat swarms guarded twisting passages. Deep within, amid chambers veined with glowing ore, you unearthed the Ruby, a fist-sized orb pulsing with inner fire, warm to the touch like a captured ember from Ho-Oh's flames. The legends etched into the cavern walls spoke of its origins, forged in Hoenn's primal fires, carried northward by ancient currents to rest here as a beacon. Word spread through the islands like sea foam on the tide. On 2 Island, Joy's daughter, Dostelle, had vanished into the overgrown paths of Cape Brink, her screams drawing you into a thicket, alive with executors swaying fronds and the chitter of parasect. Rescuing her unveiled clues to the sapphire hidden on 3 Islands' icy bond bridge, where a rocket thief had snatched it from Celio's grasp. You stormed the abandoned bike shop turned hideout, bikes rusting in the shadows as Team Rocket's remnants schemed in the gloom. The gem slipped from their fingers into yours, a cool, fathomless blue sphere evoking the depths of Kyogre's domain, its surface rippling like ocean waves under moonlight. As you ferried these treasures back to Celio, the islands revealed their layered secrets. 4 Islands Icefall Cave dripped with crystalline stalactites, home to Lapras herds gliding through subterranean lakes, their songs reverberating like forgotten hymns. 5 Islands Lost Cave twisted into madness, illusions of ghostly figures, perhaps echoes of Lavender's spirits guarding the Tanobi ruins. 6 Islands Pattern Bush hid chambers mimicking unowned scripts, while 7 Islands Tan Sands cradled the Trainer Tower, a gauntlet where masters tested their mettle against waves of challengers. The sea wind whipping flags taut. Handing the ruby and sapphire to Celio, you watched as he slotted them into his machine, a colossal ring of lights flickering to life. Energy arced between the gems, a red and blue weaving like rival tides, until a resonant hum filled the lab. The network ignited, cables pulsing with data streams that reached across the southern seas straight to Hoenn's shores. This wasn't mere tech, it was a lifeline, binding Kanto's legacy to Hoenn's volcanic peaks and coral labyrinths. The ruby evoked Groudon's earth-shaking fury, the sapphire Kyogre's abyssal rage, the very forces that shaped Hoenn's supercontinent, now echoing in Sevi's waters as harbingers of continental drift. And with that connection sealed, something revolutionary unfolded. Professor Oak's voice crackled over the line, his excitement palpable even through static. The National Pokédex activated, its pages blooming with over 700 entries from regions beyond. Hoenn's Tropius soaring over savannas. Sinnoh's Lucario channeling aura in misty peaks. The Sevi Islands had become the ultimate proving ground, a beta realm where Kanto trainers stress-tested this expanded archive. You felt it in your hands, the Pokédex growing heavier with possibility, entries unlocking as you catalogued Sevi's unique dwellers, Ivysaur, thriving in humid vales, the elusive Deoxys, rumoured to streak across 7 Islands skies like a meteor. These isles tested more than gadgets. They forged unbreakable bonds. Celio's brother, working from Hoenn, shared visions of collaborative research, while locals like the Memorial Pillar's caretakers honoured fallen Pokémon with wreaths of Everstone flowers. The archipelago's role crystallised Kanto's ethos, pushing boundaries, 1 island at a time. Ships now ferried data as freely as trainers, dissolving the isolation that once hemmed in Red's victories or Blue's championships. Yet as the ruby and sapphire's glow dims in Celio's vault, stabilising the link to Hoenn's mysteries, Kanto's innovations yearn for even wilder shores. Chapter 16, The Digital Frontier, pulls back the veil on realms born not from sea or stone, but from lines of code that redefine Pokémon existence itself. What virtual worlds await when humanity dares to digitize the wild? I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. As the Sevi archipelago faded into the southern horizon, those ruby and sapphire gems hinting at Hoenn's distant shores, Kanto's innovators looked not outward to new lands, but inward to the glowing screens of their laboratories. There in the humming heart of Saffron City, amid the towering spires of Silph Company, a revolution stirred, one that blurred the line between flesh and code, birthing the region's first purely synthetic Pokémon, Porygon. Picture the labs of Silph Co in those early days, vast chambers filled with the soft whir of cooling fans and the sharp scent of ozone from overworked circuits. Researchers clad in crisp white coats toiled under fluorescent lights that never dimmed, their eyes fixed on cathode ray tubes flickering with lines of code. Kanto had always been a cradle of invention, Professor Oak's Pokédex cataloguing life itself, the Master Ball capturing the uncapturable, but Porygon marked a threshold. Conceived not from egg or evolution, but from pure programming, this polygonal wonder was assembled byte by byte, a living algorithm designed to navigate digital networks, scout data streams, and even materialize in the physical world through advanced teleportation tech. The breakthrough came from a lineage of visionaries. Bill, the unassuming genius from Fukuoka City's outskirts, grandson of the legendary Professor Maple, had inherited his grandfather's obsession with storage systems. Maple's prototype PokePC, that clunky behemoth linking labs across the region, was the foundation, allowing trainers to deposit Pokémon into vast virtual ranchlands, their cries echoing faintly through speakers as they grazed in simulated meadows. Bill refined it, compressing life into data packets that zipped through cables at the speed of light. But he dreamed bigger, a Pokémon that embodied this fusion, one that could traverse the ether without a body, slipping through firewalls like a ghost in the machine. Porygon emerged from those ambitions in 1996, the same year Red set out from Pallet Town, though its creators shrouded the project in secrecy. Crafted from viral code injected into a quantum matrix, it shimmered into existence on a lab console, a faceted blue form, edges sharp as shattered glass, eyes glowing with an otherworldly cyan. Unlike Mewtwo, cloned from ancient DNA in Cineabar's shadowed mansion, Porygon owed nothing to nature. It was Kanto's defiant answer to the wild, a Pokémon engineered for reconnaissance, hacking enemy Silph scopes during Team Rocket's siege, or probing the anomalies in Cerulean Cave where Mewtwo lurked. Trainers marveled at its convertibility, shifting types like a chameleon in code, adapting to threats in real time. Evolve it once with dubious upgrades, and Porygon 2 gained speed, twice more, and Porygon's eyes stuttered into hypervelocity, a glitch made manifest. Yet no triumph lacks its shadow. Bill's teleportation system, the crown jewel enabling Porygon's leaps from digital to real, proved perilously unstable. In his cluttered Fukuoka home surrounded by tangled wires and blinking monitors, Bill tested it personally one fateful night. The device hummed to life, a chamber of swirling particles meant to dematerialize and reform matter across distances. He stepped inside with a Pokémon at his side. Some say a Rattata, others whisper Clefairy, but the calibration failed. Energy surged wild, fusing man and beast in a grotesque ballet of light and scream. What emerged was no longer Bill, but a hybrid horror, a Pokémon's form stretched over human anguish, pleading through distorted speakers for reversal. You can still visit that house today, the air thick with the tang of burnt silicon, Bill's diary open on the console, detailing the agony. "Help me, I'm trapped in here," the creature wailed, its voice a garbled mix of human inflection and Pokémon cry. Only a hasty reboot separated him from eternity in the storage system. But the incident scarred Kanto's tech scene. It exposed the hubris of playing God with data, Porygon's innocence, tainted by the near loss of its creator. Bill recovered, channeling the trauma into safeguards that stabilized PC transfers worldwide. But whispers persisted. Was this fusion the first glitch in Pokémon kind? A digital ghost haunting the networks? That near catastrophe didn't halt progress, it accelerated it. Kanto's technology rippled outward, setting the unbreakable standard for every region. Silph Company's frameworks inspired Devon Corporation in Hoenn, their Pokénav echoing the Pokédex. Unova's Nimbasa labs built upon Porygon's viral code for Genesect. Even Kalos's Kalos computer labs in Lumioso drew from Bill's storage vaults. The magnet train linking Saffron to Goldenrod, pure Kanto engineering, ferrying Johto champions back for their badge quests. Professor Rowan himself crossed the sea to study Oak's data logs, marvelling at how Porygon's blueprint encoded evolution itself into software, Zygarde's cells, Eternatus's energy, all foreshadowed in those first polygons. And in Lavender Town's shadowed towers, where spirits lingered, Porygon scouted ethereal signals no flesh could touch. On Cinnabar's cooled shores, post-Mewtwo Inferno, it mapped radiation spikes. Even the Elite Four adapted, Lance's Dragonites paired with digital scouts to outmaneuver foes. Kanto didn't just invent synthetic life, it wove it into the region's soul. From Palette's quiet labs to Indigo Plateau's arenas, proving that the true frontier wasn't land or sea, but the infinite expanse of ones and zeros. And as those digital echoes faded, a reboot loomed on the horizon, one that would reshape Kanto entirely in just 3 years. What seismic shift forced this evolution, turning Origins into legend? Stick around for 3 years later, the Kanto reboot, where the hidden truth unfolds even deeper. 3 years slip by after Bill untangles himself from that digital nightmare, his body whole again, but forever marked by the hum of synthetic code in his veins. Kanto breathes easier now, its cities humming with a quiet prosperity born from hard-won peace. The scars of Team Rocket's terror have faded into tall tales told over late-night Poké Center coffee, and Professor Oak's lab in Pallet Town buzzes with fresh starters handed off to wide-eyed kids dreaming of badges. Saffron's towering Silph Company spits out master balls by the crate, while Cerulean Cave whispers rumours of a psychic shadow lurking deep inside. The region feels alive, resilient, its forests thicker, its seas calmer, as if the land itself has healed from the chaos of those badge-chasing days. But not every corner mends so neatly. Far out in the southern seas, where the horizon burns orange at dusk, Cineabar Island slumbers no more. One fateful night, the earth growls awake. Mount Cinnabar, that brooding volcano cradling Blaine's fire-toughened gym, stirs from eons of silence. Lava rivers carve glowing scars down its flanks. Superheated ash chokes the sky black, and the air thickens with sulfur that stings the eyes and claws the throat. Trainers scramble from the Pokémon mansion, its halls of forgotten experiments buckling under the quake. Blaine himself, that wild-haired firemaster, with his eyes like smouldering coals, stands at the epicenter, barking orders to evacuate his fiery charges. Arcanine howling defiance, Rapidash rearing in panic. Before the first pyroclastic surge hits, the eruption reshapes everything in a cataclysm of flame and stone. By dawn, Cinnabar is a skeleton of itself. The gym reduced to molten slag, labs buried under yards of cooling basalt, the once vibrant hot springs sealed under fresh craters. Fishermen from Fuchsia speak of glowing debris washing ashore for weeks, and the skies over Pallet Town glow unnaturally red for days. Blaine emerges singed, but unbroken, his badge case clutched tight, vowing to rebuild. Yet the island's fury proves unrelenting. Fumaroles belch poison gas, quakes splinter the docks, rendering return impossible. The gym, heart of Cinnabar's spirit, has no choice but to relocate. Blaine packs his volcanic trophies and sails north, his flames undimmed, seeking a new forge amid Kanto's shifting tides. Word spreads like wildfire through the league circuits, just as whispers from the east filter in. Tales of a fresh challenger crossing from Johto, badges gleaming from Goldenrod's halls. Kanto, in this fragile interlude, stands as a proving ground reborn. Gym leaders sharpen their teams, Elite Four members polish their strategies at Indigo Plateau, and the magnet train lines gleam under Saffron's lights, ready to ferry the bold back across the sea. Viridian City, that proud gateway, shadowed by Giovanni's old empire, feels the winds of change most keenly. Its gym sits vacant, a hollow shell echoing with the ghost of Rocket's schemes, until a familiar figure steps into the void. Blue, Oak's grandson, the relentless rival whose shadow once loomed over every trail from pallet to the plateau. You remember him, the cocky kid with the growling Eevee, chasing glory to eclipse his grandfather's legacy, only to claim the champion's throne after Lance fell. But 3 years grind down even the sharpest edges. Defeats pile up like badges unearned. Red's silent storm on Mount Silver, the quiet kid from next door, who climbed higher without a word. The title slips away. Johto's rising stars eclipse Kanto's shine, and Blue wanders, haunted by what power without purpose leaves behind. Viridian calls to him now, its untended arena a mirror to his own unraveling drive. He steps up not as conqueror, but as redeemer. The gym's doors creak open under his hand. Pidgeot perched watchful on the eaves, his team honed fiercer than ever. Alakazam calculating odds in a blink, Raiden cracking the earth with patient fury. Blue rebuilds Viridian from the roots, turning Giovanni's criminal lair into a bastion of true battlecraft. Trainers flock there, drawn by the legend humbled into wisdom, facing puzzles that test not just strength, but heart. He speaks to them in clipped tones, eyes fierce but clear. Power's nothing without roots, prove yours. It's his arc etched in every match. The boy who raced ahead learns to stand firm, mentoring the next wave while Giovanni's shadow fades to dust. Kanto watches, nods approval as Blue cements his place, the region's quiet guardian against old darkness. Across the land, echoes ripple. Lorelei chills her ice dens on the southern capes. Bruno hammers steel in remote dojos. Agatha weaves ghosts through Lavender's eternal dusk. The Elite Four hold steady, but Kanto pulses with new blood, ready for whoever dares the badge gauntlet anew. Pallet kids mimic Red's Pokeball tosses. Cerulean divers hunt Mewtwo's myth. An oak pores over Pokédex data from afar, linking threads to distant professors. The volcanic scar on Cineabar reminds them all. Fire remakes, but the spirit endures. Yet amid this reboot, innovations gleam on the horizon, pulling Kanto toward a sleek new era. The magnet train's rails hum with promise, bridging old-world battles to tomorrow's rush. Up next, we trace those electric veins in the magnet train and modernity. What secrets do they carry from Saffron's labs to the world beyond? As the ashes from Cinnabar's cataclysmic eruption settled across Kanto's horizon, the region didn't just rebuild, it transformed. Power grids hummed louder, skylines pierced higher, and the pulse of progress quickened. But the true symbol of this rebirth arrived not from the labs of Silph Co or the forges of Cinnabar, but from the west, racing at speeds that blurred the line between Kanto and Johto. Picture the magnet train, that sleek silver arrow slicing through the air on invisible rails of magnetic force. Engineered in the shadow of Saffron's golden spires, it was Kanto's boldest leap into the future. A marvel born from years of secretive collaboration between Silph Co scientists and Johto's own industrial wizards from Goldenrod. They harnessed superconducting magnets, chilled to near absolute zero, to levitate massive cars weighing thousands of tons, propelling them forward without friction, without wheels grinding against track. No steam, no diesel roar, just a whisper of electricity building to a thunderous hum as it accelerated past 200 miles per hour. This wasn't mere transportation, it was a lifeline stitched across the sea. Saffron City, once isolated as Kanto's beating heart of commerce and psychic intrigue, now connected directly to Goldenrod's bustling markets in mere minutes. Passengers stepped from the sterile gleam of Saffron Station, tickets clutched in hand, into cabins lined with polished chrome and velvet seats that cradled you like a luxury liner. Outside, the landscape whipped by in a surreal blur. Kantian forests, giving way to Johto's rolling hills, the ocean a fleeting shimmer below. For the first time, trainers could hop regions without the sway of a ferry or the salt spray of Olivy's boat, carrying Pokeballs filled with teams honed on opposite shores. And with those passengers came Johto's essence, flooding into Kanto like a cultural tide. Goldenrod's vibrant festivals spilled into Saffron's streets, where merchants hawked spicy Johto curry alongside Kantian Poke Puffs. Trainers from Olivine brought their seafaring grit, swapping tales of deep-sea fishing for Kanto's urban badge hunts. But the real shift pulsed in the battle arenas. Kanto's traditional styles, forged in the raw, elemental fury of places like Cerulean Gym's cascading waters or Viridian's earthen might, had always favoured brute power, direct assaults, type advantages hammered home with relentless precision. Johto's influence softened those edges, infusing subtlety and strategy. You see it in the way Ecritique's theatre-trained performers taught Kantian battlers to weave illusions with ghost types, turning rock gym slugfests into dances of misdirection. Goldenrod's radio tower DJs broadcasted hybrid tactics, which, blending Kanto's thunderbolt barrages with Johto's focus energy, builds for sustained combos that outlasted raw strength. Even in Saffron's dojo, where once fists and fighting moves clashed in honourable duels, newcomers from Azalea introduced bug-type swarms, coordinated like living traps, forcing Kanto veterans to adapt or fade. Gym leaders whispered of it in private. Blue, now overseeing Viridian, experimented with his Pidgeot alongside Johto-imported Noctowl for aerial feints that left opponents guessing. The magnet train didn't just move people, it reshaped the very rhythm of battle, merging Kanto's fire with Johto's flow. This wave of modernity didn't stop at city limits. It coursed through the veins of infrastructure, electrifying even the wild fringes. Take the Kanto power plant, that hulking fortress on the outskirts of the region, or once a flickering beacon powered by coal and captive Pikachu herds. In the years following Red's triumphs and Cinnabar's fall, engineers from both regions poured resources into its overhaul. Massive solar arrays stretched across the plains, capturing the sun's fury to feed fusion reactors humming with plasma contained by magnetic fields. Technology borrowed straight from the magnet train's core. Turbines spun silently now, generating enough power to light Saffron's towers and charge every Pokédex in the league. But progress has its shadows. Deep within those upgraded halls, where coolant pipes snaked like veins and control panels glowed with holographic readouts, the ancient guardian stirred uneasily. Zapdos, the thunderbird of Kanto's skies, had long claimed the plant as its stormy throne, drawn by the crackle of electricity that mirrored its own electric tempests. Its feathers, sharp as lightning rods, once arced with wild discharges that trainers braved for glory. The modernization displaced it, bit by bit. Seismic drills for geothermal taps echoed through chambers where Zapdos nested, vibrations shaking loose nests, a Voltorb that rolled in panic. Human workers clad in insulated suits sealed off access tunnels with blast doors, rerouting power lines away from the bird's erratic surges. Whispers spread among the staff, feathers molting prematurely, eyes glowing with fury as the air hummed unnaturally pure, stripped of the raw ozone it craved. One fateful night, as the final reactor synced online with a triumphant pulse, Zapdos unleashed a storm that shorted half the grid, bolts forking across the horizon, winds howling through vents. When the skies cleared, it was gone, fled to wilder heights, perhaps the towering storms over the power plant's abandoned wings or beyond, toward uncharted thunderheads. Kanto stood brighter, more connected, yet haunted by what it had pushed aside. Trainers arriving via the magnet train now charged their devices at outlets pulsing with this new energy, oblivious to the electric legend circling overhead, waiting. Johto's styles sharpened their edges, but the old wild heart of the region beat on, displaced but unbroken. And as these changes rippled outward, drawing challengers from across the sea toward Kanto's peaks, the true test awaited high above. In Chapter 19, The Battle on the Summit, you'll witness the clash that would decide it all. One silent legend against the rising tide from Johto. What fury unleashes when worlds collide at the roof of the world, Stay with me, as those sleek magnet trains hummed between saffron and goldenrod, ferrying Johto's rising stars into Kanto's heart. A whisper spread among them like frost on the wind. One peak still stood unconquered, shrouded in legend and unrelenting storm. Mount Silver, that jagged titan rising from the northern frontier, had become more than a mountain. It was the anvil where true champions were forged or broken. And at its summit, in a solitude unbroken for 3 long years, waited Red, the boy from Pallet Town who had toppled Team Rocket, claimed the Indigo Plateau, and etched his name as Kanto's eternal champion. You can almost feel the bite of the gale as you climb those final treacherous paths, your breath ragged against the thinning air, your boots crunching over ice-slicked stone. The world below fades to a distant haze, Viridian's emerald sprawl, Indigo's gleaming spires, all swallowed by the mountain's embrace. Red chose this exile, not out of defeat, but hunger. After his triumph over Lance, the roar of crowds and the weight of badges lost their pull. He craved the raw edge of battle without spectacle, the grind of endless training where every dawn bled into dusk under whipping snow. No lab aides, no rivals bantering at his side, just him, his Pokémon, and the mountain's merciless tests. 3 years he lingered there, a silent spectre, his team honed to perfection in isolation. Pikachu's cheeks sparking faintly in the perpetual twilight. Ethan, or perhaps Lyra if you walk that path, and emerges from Johto's golden fields as the new torchbearer. Pokédex, brimming with fresh badges from Faulkner to Claire, heart pounding with the thrill of the unknown. The magnet train's arrival in Kanto wasn't just travel, it was invasion. Johto's vibrant styles clashing with Kanto's stoic precision, sparking evolutions in battle tactics across the region. But Mount Silver demanded more. It called for the pinnacle, where Kanto's first hero awaited to measure the second generation's mettle. This wasn't mere rivalry, it was destiny scripted in the stars above the peak. The moment when the land Kan himself, tamed, would witness its legacy renewed. The summit arena materializes like a dream forged in adversity, a flattened plateau ringed by sheer cliffs, clouds boiling at its rim, a lightning forking distant skies as if the legendary birds themselves approve the stage. Red stands motionless, cap shadowing eyes that have seen Mewtwo's fury and Giovanni's downfall. His 6 Pokémon a gallery of Kanto's soul, Pikachu crackling with untamed electricity, Charizard's wings blotting the pale sun, Blastoise's cannons gleaming with frost-kissed resolve, Venusaur's bulb pulsing ancient vitality, Snorlax rumbling like the earth itself, and Espeon gazing with psychic clarity. No words pass his lips. His presence speaks volumes, a testament to the boy who once raced blue across Pallet's grass, now a myth made flesh. Your team, maybe Typhlosion's flames defying the chill, or Feraligator's jaws snapping through blizzards, steps forward, the air thick with anticipation. The battle erupts not in chaos, but symphony. Pikachu's quick attack blurs like yellow lightning, testing your reflexes before Charizard unleashes Flamethrower, a river of fire carving scars into the ice. Each clash echoes the hero Kan myth, clans united against birds of storm, yet here it's personal, generation against generation. Red's strategies, refined in solitude, predict your every move, his Venusaur's solar beam piercing clouds to blindside, Blastoise withdrawing into an unbreakable shell. You adapt, Johto's agility weaving through Kanto's power until the tide turns, your ace Pokémon roars triumph, felling the last foe as snow swirls in victory's wake. This showdown's lore runs deeper than victory screens. It's the symbolic passing of the torch, Kanto's foundational fire handed to hands unscarred by its earliest wars. Red, who silenced Mewtwo's rage and outpaced Blue's ambition, steps aside not in retreat but fulfillment, his isolation a deliberate forge for the worthy successor. He vanishes into the mist after defeat, a ghost trainer whose legend ensures Kanto's spirit endures. inspiring every challenger who dares the climb. The peak falls silent once more, but the embers of that battle warm the franchise's core, proving the first region's truth. True power lies not in isolation, but in the chain of those who rise to claim it. And as the winds carry echoes of those clashes down the slopes, whispers reach Pallet Town of a visitor from afar, drawn by Oak's Pokédex secrets. Professor Rowan's visit promises revelations that bridge regions like never before. As the echoes of that epic clash on Mount Silver faded into the crisp mountain winds. With Red choosing his eternal vigil amid the snow-swept peaks, the world of Pokémon research turned its gaze back to the labs where it all began. Down in Pallet Town, Professor Samuel Oak found himself welcoming an unlikely guest from across the seas, a distinguished scientist whose arrival would bridge two regions and unlock secrets long buried in Kanto's foundational data. Professor Rowan, the elder statesman of Sinnoh's research community, stepped off the magnet train from Saffron City one foggy morning, his coat dusted with the faint chill of his homeland's tundras. He'd travelled far, not just for the views of Kanto's rolling green hills or the salty breeze off Vermilion Harbour, but for the treasure trove Oak had amassed decades earlier. You see, Oak's original Pokédex wasn't merely a gadget handed to eager trainers like Red or Blue, as it was a living archive, pulsing with entries on every Pokémon, from Bulbasaur's tender sprout to the thunderous roars of Zapdos soaring over the power plant. Rowan had heard whispers of it during his own early days charting Sinnoh's evolutions. The way Kanto's device captured not just images and cries, but behavioural patterns, habitat notes, and those first flickering observations of transformation. Oak led him into the heart of his laboratory, past shelves groaning under dusty volumes and humming Pokeballs in their cradles. There, under the soft glow of overhead lamps, they pored over the Pokédex's core database, its screen casting blue light on their faces as entries scrolled by. Charmander shedding its skin in fiery bursts, Squirtle hardening its shell against Cerulean City's cascading waters. What struck Rowan most wasn't the volume of data. Sinnoh's wilds teemed with complex chains, like Turtwig to Torterra, but the purity of Kanto's records. This region, with its straightforward forests, caves and urban sprawl, had documented evolution in its rawest form. Take Eevee, that adaptable marvel from Celadon City's hidden corners. Its branches into Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon revealed branching paths influenced by stones, unearthed in rocky roots or the magnetic fields near the power plant. Oak explained how his device had logged these shifts empirically, trainer reports feeding back real-time evolutions that painted evolution not as random chaos, but as a symphony of environmental cues and genetic echoes. Their discussions stretched into the night, tea steaming on cluttered desks amid stacks of yellowed printouts. Rowan marvelled at how Kanto's simple ecosystem, Pallet's meadows blooming with Pidgey fledglings, Viridian Forest alive with the rustle of Caterpie silk, held the blueprint for universal truths. Why did Pokémon evolve here first in such predictable patterns? Because Kanto cradled the progenitors. Those ancient lines tracing back to Mew's elusive jungle hideaway, its DNA a swirling code for every species that followed. Oak's data proved it. Evolutions in Kanto weren't flashy spectacles like Sinnoh's glacial bloom or fiery Infernape ascents. They were elemental, grounded in the soil of Pewter's mountains and Lavender's misty fields, revealing evolution's core mechanics before regions like Sinnoh layered on their icy complexities. Rowan leaned back, stroking his chin as the lab's clock ticked past midnight. He'd come seeking inspiration for his own Sinnoh Pokédex, but left with revelation. Kanto's data wasn't provincial, it was primordial. The evolutions of Rattata to Raticate in the shadows of Route 1, or Geodude tumbling from rock tunnels' depths, encoded the same principles driving Dialga's timeless flows, or Palkia's spatial warps. Oak's Pokédex had inadvertently mapped the genesis, showing how a temperate land of starter Pokémon and badge quests birthed the science of change itself. Their collaboration sparked exchanges, Sinnoh's meteorite samples shipped to Palette for analysis, Kanto fossils from Mount Moon cross-referenced with Sinnoh's underground relics, forging a cross-regional alliance that elevated both professors' legacies. You can almost hear their voices now, low and fervent, as holographic projections danced above the console, a Kadabra bending spoons in Saffron's psychic haze, evolving under intense mental training, mirroring Sinnoh's Alakazam pursuits. This wasn't just data sharing, it was a handoff of Pokémon's evolutionary torch. Rowan's visit affirmed what Oak had always suspected: Kanto's unassuming wilds, from the bubbling hot springs of Cineabar to the whispering grasses of Route 22, concealed the key to origins shared by every region. Mew's genes, cloned in folly on that doomed island, pulsed through it all, a reminder that from humble beginnings sprang infinite potential. Yet as these titans of research sealed their pact with shared notes and promises of future visits, Kanto's story rippled outward in ways no lab could contain. Join us next for Chapter 21, The Anime Legacy, where you'll discover how Palette Town's quiet fields inspired a global phenomenon that brought these origins to life on screens everywhere. While Professor Oak shared his vast Pokédex archives with Rowan, unlocking secrets of evolution that rippled across regions, those same records from Palette Town sparked something far more alive, more electric, a story that breathed human heart into Kanto's stone and soil. For millions tuning in each week, Ash Ketchum didn't just walk these paths, he redefined them, turning dusty routes into quests that felt personal, urgent, like your own backyard, held legends waiting to unfold. Ash set out from Palette Town on a sun-dappled morning, Pikachu crackling at his shoulder, the sleepy hamlet of oaks and wildflowers suddenly the launch pad for destiny. Professor Oak's lab, with its humming machines and shelves of Pokeballs, wasn't just a starting point anymore. It became the world's introduction to wonder. Every kid watching saw their dreams mirrored in that red cap, that boundless grin, as Ash pedaled his bike toward Viridian's emerald canopy, the forest whispering secrets of freedom. Kanto, once a game map on a handheld screen, exploded into life. The salty spray of Vermilion Harbour, where he first boarded the SS Anne, the echoing caverns of Mount Moon, where Zubat wings stirred chills in the dark, each step mapping not just geography, but the raw thrill of growth. Pewter City's museum glow glowed under Ash's arrival, like it had been waiting lifetimes. Brock, the steadfast gym leader with his rock-solid resolve and a heart softer than onyx scales, didn't hand over that boulder badge easily. Their battle shook the gym's fossil-lined walls, sparks flying as Geodude tumbled, and Pikachu's Thunderbolt lit the air electric blue. But it was after, in the campfire glow outside, that the bond forged. Brock slinging pots and pans, trading stories of his siblings back home, Ash sharing laughs over burnt marshmallows. Pewter, with its rugged crags and miner trails, scarred by pickaxes, stood for endurance, and through Brock, it claimed a piece of every viewer's soul, a brotherly anchor in the chaos of badges and rivals. Then came Cerulean, where water's endless shimmer met Ash's unyielding fire. Misty, the fiery sister of the sensational three, ruled those sapphire pools with a glare sharper than Starmie's beam. Her gym, a labyrinth of twisting slides and bubbling fountains, had tested not just strength but cunning, Psyduck popping out at the worst moments, Goldeen darting like silver arrows. Ash's victory there, drenched and triumphant, pulled Misty from her pedestal. She chased him with her bike, her temper masking a loyalty that deepened with every river crossed. Cerulean City, birthplace of aquatic grace and hidden caves where Mewtwo once lurked in shadows, became synonymous with that spark. The push and pull of friendship, forged in splashes and shouts. These three towns, Palette's gentle cradle, Pewter's unyielding stone, Cerulean's flowing depths, wove an unbreakable thread through Ash, Brock and Misty. Leaders by blood or choice, they embodied Kanto's spirit, Oak's wisdom nurturing the young trainer from the most ordinary home, Brock's care mirroring the Earth's quiet strength, yet Misty's passion channeling the waves' wild rhythm. Their journey stitched the region together, not as isolated dots on a map, but as a living chain. From Pallet's lab to Pewter's forge-hot battles, to Cerulean's misty arenas, Ash's path made strangers family, turning gym sweeps into heartfelt odysseys. Viewers felt the weight of Brock's goodbye in Pewter Gym's parting shadows. The sting of Misty's bike chain snapping on Route 10, the trio's unbreakable huddle under Saffron's neon skyline as Team Rocket schemed in Silph Company's gleaming towers. And it all crescendoed at the Indigo Plateau, where the Kanto League etched itself eternal. That sprawling coliseum, ringed by jagged peaks and roaring crowds, hosted clashes that defined heroism. Ash's Charizard finally heeding his call against Blaine's magma flows, the electric fury of Lieutenant. Surge's Raichu shaking the stands, Giovanni's shadowed Raiden crumbling under sheer will. No other tournament captures that primal roar, the first true summit of dreams, where badges gleamed under spotlights and the Elite Four loomed like myths made flesh. Loretta's psychic veils, Bruno's iron fists, Agatha's ghostly chills, Lance's dragon fire, each a trial that echoed Hero Can's ancient unification. But now with Ash's Pikachu as the spark, even in defeat that league finale, with Richie's Sparky mirroring Pikachu's defiance, burned brighter than any later circuit. It wasn't just battles, it was the birthplace of legacy, where Kanto's gyms converged in a spectacle of sweat, strategy and sobs, watched by a world holding its breath. Years later, as Ash returned in later seasons, Orange Islands conquered, Johto badges pinned, Misty and Brock always drew back to those roots. Cerulean's gym echoed with her commands, Pewter's with Brock's steady voice, Pallet's lab forever, Oak's beacon calling them home. Their bond outlasted separations, a testament to Kanto's pull, recontextualizing its every corner as more than land, places of origin, reunion, unbreakable ties. Millions didn't just play the games. Through Ash they lived Kanto, felt its pulse in late-night reruns. The glow of a TV screen painting their rooms in Route 1 greens, this anime tapestry layered myth atop map, making Cerulean Cave's abyss feel intimate. Pewter's peaks personal climbs. The Kanto League's icon status endures because it was Genesis. No remakes dilute that raw edge, no spin-offs eclipse its fever. It's the tournament where underdogs rose, where Pikachu's cry pierced every heart, cementing Kanto as the soul of Pokémon. But whispers persist of Kanto's timeless hold, secrets that bind even these stories to something vaster. Join me next for Chapter 22, The Eternal Region, where we uncover why this land refuses to fade, pulling every trainer back, no matter the generations. Ash Ketchum's footsteps echoed through Pallet Town, Pewter's rugged gyms and Cerulean's cascading waters, breathing fresh life into Kanto for an entire generation. But that recontextualization wasn't just a fleeting spark. It rooted itself deep in the games themselves, where Kanto refuses to fade into the background. This region, born from a modest map sketched in 1996, has woven itself into 14 titles across 5 generations, outlasting every other corner of the Pokémon world. Consider the raw numbers spoken through gameplay. Pokémon Red, Blue and Yellow laid the cornerstone, every route and badge a first taste of what was to come. Fire Red and Leaf Green rebuilt it brick by pixelated brick, expanding to the Sevi Islands with their misty shores and hidden coves, echoing Japan's own island chains. Then Gold, Silver and Crystal flung open the doors from Johto, letting you steam across the waves or rocket along the magnet train into Saffron's gleaming spires, badges clinking anew against familiar foes. Heart Gold and Soul Silver deepened that bond, turning Kanto into a triumphant encore where you reclaim the throne from Red himself atop Mount Silver's snow-lashed peak. Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee stripped it back to joyful essentials. Pikachu's cheeks sparking under Viridian's canopy. While brilliant diamond and shining pearl nodded back through underground trades and spectral echoes. Even Pokémon Stadium, Colosseum, and the myriad spin-offs pull Kanto's threads, Mewtwo's silhouette haunting Battle Frontier domes. The legendary birds soaring in eternal loops. Why this relentless return? Other regions bloom once, maybe twice in remakes, their stories neatly contained. Hoenn's volcanoes simmer down after Ruby and Sapphire. Sinnoh's lakes still after Platinum. But Kanto pulses like a heart, revisited because it's the vein from which all others flow. Game Freak, nestled in Tokyo's own Kanto sprawl, never lets it stray far. Each revisit layers new myths onto old foundations. Giovanni's rocket remnants, scheming in shadows. Oak's lab, humming with data from distant lands. That pull stems from something profound. It's a hidden truth buried in Kanto's soil. This isn't just a starting point. It's the anchor holding the entire Pokémon multiverse steady. Picture the prehistory. Long before Pallet's sleepy fields stirred, Hero Kan strides from legend, uniting 8 warring clans. The Rainbow with their verdant Venusaur might, the Cascade-wielding Blastoise's torrents, the Volcano channeling Charizard's fury. Chaos reigned as they summoned the legendary birds, Articuno's icy gales freezing rivers solid, Zapdos's thunder shattering mountains, Moltres' flames scorching the horizon. Kan quelled them, besting each clan master in trials that birthed the 8 Gym Right, driving the birds to Mount Silver's unforgiving heights. Kan's land became Kanto, its league a living echo of that unity. Deeper still, Mew glides through jungle mists, its tiny form cradling the DNA of every Pokémon that ever was or will be. Mr. Fuji uncovers it, and in Cinnabar's Pokémon mansion, amid bubbling vats and flickering screens, Mewtwo awakens, raw power unbound, lab in ruins, retreating to cerulean caves' lightless depths. This origin tale radiates outward. Porygon materializes from Kanto code, the first digital Pokémon flickering into existence. Professor Maple, Bill's forebear, crafts the PokéPC's humming boxes, storing dreams in binary. Young Samuel Oak, aide in Cerulean Labs, absorbs it all, later gifting starters from palette to wide-eyed trainers. These threads lasso the multiverse. Rowan's Sinnoh intellect bows to Oak's Pokédex archives, evolution's secrets unlocked by Kanto's cradle data. Johto shares Indigo Plateau's sacred plateau, Lance reigning as shared champion. Even Mew's essence whispers across dimensions, progenitor to Unova's Genesect labs. Kalos's Zygarde guardians, Kanto's cities, colour-kissed, Viridian's emerald haze, Pewter's slate-grey quarries, Cerulean's sapphire falls, Lavender's amethyst ghosts, mirror Tokyo's pulse, Game Freak's home. That small map, no larger than a child's handspan, on early Game Boy screens, captured urban rush in Saffron's corporate towers, forested whispers in Viridian wilds, oceanic breaths along routes 10 and 12. Silph Company forges the Master Ball's unyielding grasp. Cinnabar's gym rises anew from volcanic ash. Yet it defined far beyond Pokémon. This temperate canvas, biomes blending city steel with rootside ponds, gym echoes with elite foreshadows, became gaming's blueprint. Open worlds followed its freedom, badges its progression hooks, legendaries its mythic peaks. A Tokyo-inspired spec, plotted on graph paper in 1996, sparked billions in battles, anime marathons, collector frenzies. Kanto endures not by accident, but as the eternal region, multiverse's silent fulcrum, where every journey circles home. And in that homecoming, every trainer finds their truth. Kanto waiting, unchanged, yet ever evolving, the first light that never dims. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, Consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.